Hello everyone and welcome to another match preview on Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzy and I'm your host for today's show. As you can see, I'm not alone today. I'm joined by Tariq, who is a big Arsenal fan. He also has his own YouTube channel called Tariq Talks Football. So it's only right that we have a balanced conversation tonight for this huge Premier League encounter that could have a huge impact in the title race, despite it being only match week 9 right now. But firstly, Tariq, welcome back to the channel. How have you been?
Hi, Ozzy. It's been a long time, my bro. I remember when we spoke back in, was it in February the last time we spoke?
Yes.
Back to the Emirates?
It was, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's been a while, but I hope you had a good year and hope you're keeping well. And big up to everyone else who's watching. I can see Dazzo and Enzo already in the chat. But yeah, how have you been?
All good, all good. Just trying to get as much content going on this season. So far, it's been a great start for Liverpool, surprisingly, but we'll talk about that in more detail during the show. But let's put the spotlight on your team. So, what have you made of Arsenal's start to the season? Because I feel like there's been a sort of shift in terms of the tactics that have been deployed by Arteta. Is that something you're a fan of, or are you quite bemused by the way Arsenal have played so far this season?
So our start to the season, I'd probably, before the Bournemouth game, I'd have said it was decent, given the circumstances. You know, players, I'm sure you've experienced it as well, returning back from international duty quite late. So some of them are our main players in Saka, Rice, Raya, Saliba, all went far in the Euros. And so they didn't have a pre-season. So it was just kind of ticking along. We had some big games to begin with: Aston Villa away, Spurs away, Man City away, of course. So a difficult start to the season. And going into the last international break, I'm very happy with our position. Of course, from what you've seen on social media since, it feels like with Arsenal fans, it only takes a couple of things to go wrong, results not to go our way, and then we all overreact and we're out of the title race, or this is a must win, and if we don't win, it's our season's done. The Bournemouth game was quite disappointing because of the red card, which obviously affected the game, and that's been a theme of things so far this season. And in big games and losing key players, lost Declan Rice for Spurs away, and not without Saliba going into this one. So the Bournemouth game was a real gut punch. I would also say the Brighton one, given the circumstances, because we had the game under control. We started the second half really well, and Brighton are a tough team. I know you've got to face them soon in a double header. So not to get the 3 points there, you really wanted it, and you need to win your home games. So yeah, I think it's been a decent start, but of course, if we go another game without a win, or maybe 2 defeats in a row, it will start to have a change on the outlook. And just finally, on your questions about Arteta actually said in pre-season, he had an interview out in Mallorca, and he said and they asked him, what's your main tweaks and things that you're looking to get from Arsenal this year? He said, win under any context. That's been the key figure, not to, play great football or necessarily to do things like when he quote when he said, win at our worst. So that's been the objective. And it's like how you see early in the season, you kind of see how teams are going to set up, be hard to beat, and that's what we're really trying to be, the most difficult team to play this season. That's what you're trying to look at with Arsenal. And yeah, when we've had 11 men, I think we've been very good. I think we have, but we seem to be shooting ourselves in the foot too many times, which is having a knock-on effect on when we get to team news in terms of injuries. So I'm happy with Arteta taking this more of a pragmatic style, because I know that Arsenal can set up in any way where we're going to be the ones dominating. I still expect us to win. Where we're going to come in against a top team like this weekend. If they're going to have possession, I'm not too worried most of the time because I know that we can set up well defensively, whether they're mid block or a low block, and we can score goals in any way. Set pieces, nice bit of creativity. So yeah, very positive going into Arsenal this season. But yeah,
this definitely the disciplinary aspect has been a bit of a surprise because you've got, I think, 3 red cards, which is just about the same amount of goals that we've conceded so far in the league table. So crazy in terms of that sort of number. But I just wanted to touch upon the point that you made, where I'm not saying you're a reflection of your fan base, because I know I've spoken to you quite a few times and you're completely different to the online Arsenal fan or the typical online Arsenal fan that you get. Do you feel like this game is that huge that if you lose, it would have a huge impact in the title race, or do you just see it as another game in the fixture list because we're still in match week 9? It's very premature, I would say, in my opinion, to say you're out of the title race. But do you get that feeling amongst your fan base that, you know, this is make or break for us?
I think, because our fans, especially Ozzy, that's what it is. I think it's so important for the fans to believe, and because we don't have anything to show for it yet. We don't have a trophy, a major one. We don't have anything to really cling on to as a fan base. Not me per se. I like to think I'm a bit more patient in that and a bit more understanding, but I can also understand why a lot of fans are like so antsy, and when something does go wrong, their worst fears come true, their worst nightmares, it feels like, because they don't have that. Okay, so we've been here before. Like if you was playing City this weekend and you beat City, you 100% wouldn't think, oh, that's it, we're going to win the league. City are out of the title race. Whereas because you know the mentality that they've got, you've seen what they've done, you've got evidence. Whereas with Arsenal, you think the bottle job gene, not necessarily you, but some of our fans and rivals are, that's it. They're going to crumble now. This is why Arsenal can't win the league. So I do think in the sense of for around the club and the environment, it feels like a must win. In terms of the league table, it is, I'd probably say, more of a must not lose, because a draw, it's not great because City have got Southampton this weekend. They could potentially go 6 point clear, and you're already 4 points ahead of us. But because we go after this, we got 29 fixtures left to go. There's still plenty of points to play for. So in the league table, must not lose, but for the fans, it does feel like a must win to get that support and belief on side.
No, I definitely get that sort of vibe amongst the fan base, especially with the games coming thick and fast. And I feel like because you've played, you know, some of the bigger teams, whereas Liverpool, we haven't really played the so-called top 6 yet. So our fan base is, they're confident, but I wouldn't say we're going above and beyond saying we're going to win the league, because we've gone through different types of roller coaster rides over the years where, you know, we thought we were just about to get the trophy and then it just falls apart. So I feel like it's too early to kind of make predictions to say, oh, Arsenal out or anything to that nature. It's match week 9. It's literally just started the season. I know for Arsenal fans, I feel like because you were so close last year, it's just that, you know, the assumption is that, you know, this is our year where we're going to make that next step and get that title. But Man City are just, I don't know, they're a different team right now where they're not playing the sort of best football right now, but Haaland is just like scoring bangers after bangers, and it's just really going full throttle right now. What have you made of Man City so far this season? Do you still feel like they're the favourites, or do you consider Arsenal and Liverpool to really take them to the end and try, you know, maybe eclipse them to win the title?
I do think Man City are the favourites simply because of Pep Guardiola. That's the simple reason. Because whatever injury or issue that they have and going into the year, and we see Man City who tend to start the seasons off quite slow. I put slow as in quotation marks because of their standards and how they end the season. Usually going on a ridiculous run of unbeaten games, which I know that they're on right now. That's with Man City. It's always about getting new signings, settling in, getting the new systems put in place to see how they're going to play this season, and they're dealing with injuries, so they are still the favourites. They are weaker than last year, of course, simply alone just losing Rodri and not having a direct replacement for him. And even if they did, Ozzy, have a direct replacement of that level, you're potentially losing the best, or at least the second best player in the world. That's going to have a massive impact, no matter who you are, with the amount of riches that Man City have. So I do think they are worse, and you've seen that. Because again, I talk about narratives and why they're so important. If Arsenal or Liverpool won the game against Wolves in the way that they did, the bottom team, last minute, you'd be said it's too emotional. You'd hear the pundits, Gary Neville, Paul Scholes. No, okay, I like them, but they're being too emotional. They're winning these games. You're not hearing that for Man City again because of what you've seen them do before and previously. So they are still the favourites. With Liverpool, do you want to go into that now?
Yeah, go for it.
With Liverpool, very much impressed with your beginning of the season. Outstanding. And even, with the fixtures that you've had, they're favourable fixtures, but hang on. Listen, look, you played Bournemouth. We lost to Bournemouth. You haven't played Brighton yet, but it was a game we was expected to win, and you've beaten them. And what I've been most impressed by, Ozzy, is how you've played, the defensive stability you have shown. That is why I was confident when playing against Liverpool last season, and I was fairly confident that you wouldn't win the league, even though you went on that ridiculous run and you had a great season up until probably February, March. Even with a lot of injuries, you was getting through games, and it did seem a bit emotional then. But the problem is that I didn't see that that defensive control. The games were a bit still end to end, and Van Dijk had an amazing season, and he helped you out in a lot of that. But again, when the pressure cranks up, I thought that Liverpool, if they're not performing at their best, that they can be got at. Whereas now, I watch Liverpool, you don't need to be at your best and you can win games. There's not so much emphasis on the attackers. Like last season across the fan base, where towards the end, Diaz, Salah missing chances, Nunes. No, because you can score one goal and win the game. You saw it against Crystal Palace. You've seen it in other fixtures against Chelsea. I mean, I only scored 2 in that one, but controlling the game against a good Chelsea team and building in that sort of style that I'd say more modern, to a little bit more similar to Pep and Arteta. I think that suits this team in Europe and outside of Europe and in the Premier League as well. So very much impressed. I did expect you to be in and around these positions. I know there's a lot of rival fans that were like, Klopp's gone now. And that's it. They're going to be in the top 4 race. No, you don't get 80 points in that manner. And people tend to forget the amount of injuries that you had for a key part of the season too. And I remember watching the Forest game where you won that in the last minute. And it was, Bobby Clark playing, Joe Gomez played in midfield. Like, come on. Like, in the Premier League, if you're missing your key players, any game's difficult. Even Sheffield United, like, they posed Man City a threat last season. They had to have a last-minute winner to beat them, and they were one of the worst teams we've seen in the Prem. So, 100%. I'm very impressed with Liverpool, and I think you're going to be in and around the title race even towards the end of the season. Whether you win it, we don't know. It's still plenty to go, but you're definitely going to be within a shot. And if you can maintain that for as long as possible, who knows?
No, you're spot on. The funny thing about everything that you just said there, when the season first started, a lot of Liverpool fans, I won't say majority, but I would say a lot of Liverpool fans that I came across weren't impressed with the level of football that we were playing, because they were so used to seeing that heavy metal football where it's end-to-end stuff, like a basketball game, one around the other. And with Arne Slot, I was very intrigued. So I didn't really have very high expectations of the new coach, because obviously you do your research and you see what they've done previously. But this is the Premier League. It's a different kettle of fish. So you don't know how they're going to adapt. Look at Ten Hag. Everyone assumed he would have done really well due to the way that Ajax played football, but it just hasn't gone that way. So with Arne Slot, I've been impressed with his more of a calm and composed approach of playing football, but at the same time still counter-pressing and still playing the attack in an aggressive manner. The good thing about our team now is that we can manage games a lot better. That was one area of our sort of under Jurgen Klopp. I love Jurgen Klopp, don't get me wrong, but there was moments in his time where he wasn't really defensive minded in some games, where you can be 2-0 up and you need to be a bit more cautious and you manage the games in a certain way. whether that's you playing high possession football or adding an extra defender to your lineup. Different tactics depend on the opposition. Arne Slot is not afraid to make those decisions during games. Our opening game against Ipswich Town took off Kwanzaa because he wasn't winning his aerial duels and brought Konate. And since then, Konate has been pretty much a stay in place within that defense. So I'm very intrigued and refreshed by this new manager, where he's got a different way of playing. You kind of hit this one. It's quite similar to Pep.
Yeah.
He's heavily influenced by Barcelona. So it's that Dutch way of playing where it's all heavy possession. He likes to say, he made a quote in his first training session where he said, we have to kill the opposition with passes. That's his philosophy. So I've been impressed. And I know little fans are still not quite there, but I did say as soon as we start getting results, those fans will be won over. So I think the United game was kind of the tipping point for some fans. It was like, okay, fine. United aren't having the best of moments right now, but the way we played against them, we really showed that, this level of football could really work. So as a Liverpool fan, I'm very impressed in terms of how we've played so far. One of our biggest surprises is probably Gravenberch.
Absolutely.
But for me, I've always said that he is a player that is more than capable of playing that role, just because I've witnessed it for Ajax, where he played in a double pivot. So it's not a completely new role for him. It's just that he's playing at a new level, where it's, against the big opposition, and he's playing at such a intense speed where he's getting 8 out of 10 pretty much every game. So what have you made from an outside point of view of Gravenberch's rise this season? Because a lot of fans dismissed him towards the end of last season. They were like, you know what? He's not good enough. Maybe we should even think about selling him going forward. That's what I heard from some fans on social media. What have you made of his start so far?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I said I expected you to be in around here, but not away from Gravenberch.
Yeah,
Not really because of ability. I thought he just didn't have the physicality for the Premier League. From what I've seen of him, like last year under Klopp, which is his first season, you always have to put these things into context. Understanding a new league, a new way of playing, a new environment. But when you saw him in there, I thought looked a bit lightweight, fragile. He didn't look like he played against us. He was in the Premier League game. He played against us. Yeah. And I thought, we can. That's where we can beat them in the midfield, because I just don't think he's got it's like the desire in terms of duels. I didn't think, but when I see him now and winning those duels, getting those tackles and interceptions, really embracing the physical side of the game, I was like, wow, that's always a great platform to build from, because we know about his ability in terms of passing, driving the ball, how he's in tight areas. I did not question that. And he ended last season when Liverpool were in their down part. He ended it a little bit better. And I thought, maybe he is more of an 8 that plays in that half winger role, or as football manager players might say, the Mazzala role. I know you've been playing FC25 now, so you know the half winger role, especially. I thought that's where he'd thrive in more. Definitely not in the 6, being that anchor in the middle, being there and winning the ball back. And I was watching him against Leipzig. I watched the first 45 minutes before I turned over to watch the Barcelona game, and I was like, this is a different player. And I really wanted to keep my eye on Gravenberch, because I was like, there's been a lot of talk about it. And I've seen Liverpool games, and I was like, he's been dominating it in that, but against that level of opposition, let's see him now in Europe's elite. And I saw that one, and I was like, winning the ball, reading the game well. I was like, this is it now. Like, he's really settled into there, and what an improvement he's been. One of the best 6s in the Premier League so far in this season, and you did not see that from him at all. And that's a credit to Arne Slot, because you didn't. Well, look, you know it. I know it. All the talk was around Liverpool is why aren't we signing a 6? Zubimendi couldn't get in. Where's the alternative? Poor FSG, get him out. What are we doing? We know Slot doesn't like Endo, so now we're gonna have to put a square peg in a round hole in Gravenberch. But this is what happens when you've got a top coach. They find players, and he's found him. And credit to Gravenberch as well for, with all the talk around him. He's only young. What is he? 22? Is he?
22,
yeah, and that can really get to you. We've seen it get to players with bigger reputations. So outstanding work, and what a joy he has been. And I'm sure he's going to face a tough period. This is what you have to be prepared for as fans. He's going to have a tough period, and he's going to have where he might one or two mistakes, or his level might drop a little bit. and that's where you see the real truth of the player. But because I'm so confident with him now, because he came into that environment and struggled from the start and had that, oh, let's get him out, and then brought himself back up. I'm like, that's it. That's where we kind of see him with him, which is who I would say needs to take a leaf out of his book. Is I've been seeing Szoboszlai get a few bits of criticism after a good start to his Liverpool career. But yeah, in the first opening, about 9 games, we got to this stage last year, and it took a bit of a turn for the worse with little injuries and that. But I know he's not had a greatest of time, and people are questioning whether he should be in the team or not. But he's got a great example right behind him in Gravenberch to take a leaf from his book.
What have you made of the criticism for Szoboszlai? Do you think it's justified, or is it just the fan base getting a bit over the top due to the fact that he's playing on paper? It's a number 10 role, but I wouldn't quite say he's playing like a number 10. I just think he's a bit more advanced as an 8, but he's roaming around a little bit more. So what have you made of his performances so far? Because I feel like, and I'm one of his biggest fans, I was very happy when we signed him last year. I feel like he's doing a lot of the groundwork for the players around him. And due to that, you're using a lot of your energy. So you might not have the mind frame or the quick thinking to make those incisive decisions with through balls, or when you're driving the ball, do you shoot, do you pass? I feel like his decision making has been a bit questionable. So what have you made of the criticism? Do you think it's justified, or is it just fans being slightly impatient and expecting more because he's playing as a quote unquote number 10 role right now?
I'm with you in the fact that it's a bit over the top, a bit in that sense, because of the role that he's got in this team. It's not always what we want as fans in terms of players, because we're so keen on them getting output, GA, having an influence in the final third. But what he gives you in that midfield is irreplaceable. I was talking to Enz at the beginning of the season when we was making our predictions, and I said that I think Harvey Elliott could be a real breakout. Someone who plays in that number 10, likes to drift in and around. But in terms of this midfield makeup right now, I don't think this. I know Elliott's out with an injury, but I don't think this would be the best in midfield to put him into, because what Szoboszlai gives you is that physicality, that energy, where you don't have it in a natural destroyer. Although I just praise Gravenberch and doing what he's done, but McAllister as well. McAllister's very cute, and he can be the creative one and the passers. So you've got the creators from deep. You've got Trent Alexander-Arnold. You've got Salah, who are all creators. That's not his role, and I know he's brought into that, and seeing what he's done at Leipzig and Salzburg and the reputation he's come with, you expect that from him. But this is why I give massive credit to Szoboszlai, because he's been doing that, doing the work, and I think it's so far, it's, as you said, using that energy, that not even just the physical, but the mental draining that will take and have an impact on that. Just doing little things like a decoy run. That will create space for Salah or Trent or another passing lane to play that into. So I think you need to, as a fan base, calm down on that, because I'm seeing the role that he's playing, and he has to have a bit more defensive responsibility, because he doesn't have that destroyer in the middle. And I think Klopp did that with him anyway last season. He was sort of playing like how Henderson was, and there was a bit of criticism for that. But especially in this team now, you don't have that midfielder that, a Kante or a Caicedo or even a Rice or someone like that of that makeup that is going to be real intense in terms of what they can do out of possession. I think he's played a huge part, and I think his value in the team is going to be one of them, Ozzy. If he goes out with an injury or drops out of the team for whatever reason, then you'll start to see, things aren't quite working, and because we're not got Szoboszlai.
Yeah, that's not the way you should kind of show fans that, when something's not there, then you miss it even more. And I feel like that is something that we'll realize, because what he's doing, I feel like you need to watch the game, because a lot of fans, they'll catch the highlights here and there and think, oh, he hasn't done enough, he hasn't scored any goals. Also, Arne Slot made comments about him, not contributing to the goals and assists. So that may not have helped. I don't think he meant it in that sort of dig. I think it was just to kind of spur him on a little bit, to motivate him and make sure he's a bit more forward thinking when he's making those runs. But the fans take that the wrong way. They're like, oh, he's not doing his job properly as a number 10. So I'm finding it quite interesting. I still feel like there's a lot within Szoboszlai to really improve this season.
Yeah,
it's just that finding that balance. And like I said, because we didn't sign a traditional destroyer, it may have, impacted his game where he's had to defend a lot more. And I feel like a player like Zubimendi would have been good, but at the same time, I feel like with McAllister and Groundberg, it does present a good balance in our double pivot. Speaking of transfers, do you feel like Arsenal made the right recruits or enough, or did you guys do enough business? Because I feel like there's still gaps in the squad that weren't really addressed. So the big talking point would have been a striker. You didn't really sign a new striker to that extent. I feel like in terms of midfield, you've got less numbers in terms of quality and depth. Do you feel like you guys have done enough business to challenge all competitions, or is it something that might be addressed in January? Because I've got Liverpool fans telling me, "Oh, we need to sign a DM and a centre back in January," but it's not always as simple as that.
Exactly, Oz. There is always room for improvement, and I think you see that with every team. This summer, especially, it was very weird. Not a lot of signings were made by all around by the big clubs anyway. I think only Man United were the ones who made quite a lot. And they've got new ownership coming in there, trying to assert themselves and win the fans over, and trying to give Eric Ten Hag. I mean, they have a bigger gap to climb, don't they? From what 8th position to try and get into the top 4. Whereas us three, Arsenal, Liverpool, City, you signed Chiesa. We signed 3 players, 2 permanent, 1 on loan, and Man City signed 1 in Savio.
Yeah, who else did they sign?
I think it was just Savio.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I can't think of anyone else that came in.
Not a lot of signings, and Arsenal, our main focus was on outgoings, and you did really well, and Man City did even better in terms of the money that was recruited. And I think that might be to do with PSR, clubs really trying to tighten up. So I do think that Arsenal could have improved in other areas. I think we could have got a striker, or my thing was get a striker or a winger. Because then with that, you can do whatever you want with Jesus. You can either have him as a backup 9 or a backup winger. I think he's definitely better as a backup winger in this point in his career at this moment than he is a striker, because he's just not offering anything in terms of goals. And we have an over-reliance on Kai Havertz now. So, yeah, definitely would have felt like a striker. We did try and go for one, who you played against in midweek in Benjamin Šeško. But again, he was more of a development type player, someone that you brought in Nunes kind of for that to try and let him settle in. I didn't expect, even if we would have got him, I wouldn't have expected much within the first season. It was more to kind of, we needed someone to be an improvement on Eddie Nketiah, who's just gone. And be an understudy to Havertz as he settles in. I think Arsenal saw it as that. So, there's other areas that we could have improved in. I was surprised with Marino being brought in, to be honest, because I thought that it would have been a number, because of how Rice ended the season. I thought we would have gone in for a number 6, someone like a Zubimendi, who's a bit younger than a Partey, can rely on more and has a bit more legs than a Jorginho. So I thought Zubimendi would have been good, but of course he didn't want to leave, and you guys were the main ones for him last year. And we made pursuits of him, but he didn't want to leave then also. So it we went elsewhere and went, Marino, we'll sign you. And I think a lot of people expected Rice to be in the 6, move back to the 6 role, but because of Marino's injury, I think the main thing is that Marino's injury, and now he's back. I don't think we can play that sort of midfield without Ødegaard, because what with Rice, and I love him, don't get me wrong, but we know that he's not that dictator in terms of tempo. He's not a deep line playmaker. He is a destroyer. He's someone that you need to give him a little bit of freedom to go inside and to go make late runs into the box. Again, not as in similar in terms of profile, but do you see how Rodri is for Man City? Where he I know he's a DM, a number 6, but he's more of an 8, isn't he? In terms of he's on the edge of the box taking shots. He gets into the box late, run headers, all of that. That's what I think we kind of want with Rice, and we kind of have someone else who will do that progressing. Who will go drop a bit deeper if there's a high press and feel more comfortable just playing it through the lines. That's why I think Partey is key. Probably the area of weakness for us is our forward line. We are a bit thin in that area. The defense, I know right now we don't look so good, but I mean, it's stacked. We've got 4 left backs, Ozzy, and we might not have any of them playing at left back on the weekend. we got enough right backs, we got enough players that can play there, and we got players that who, because our Arteta likes to sign centre backs that play full backs, they can also cover in at centre back, of course, in terms of these times. But right now, it's not looking like that.
No.
When we get into our combined 11 or what teams are going to be, we'll talk about that there. But I wanted to ask you, like, apart from the 60, was there anything else that you wanted in the summer?
Do you know what's funny? I actually wanted Calafiori. That was a player that I really wanted because he's that sort of hybrid where he can play centre back and left back. And sometimes, from what I saw with Arne Slot's previous teams, they would transition to a back three. So the left-sided player would be Hanko, the Slovenian fullback. So he would be a left back, or it would be an inside centre back. So I feel like that was the profile that we needed. So Calafiori was actually my first choice. I really wanted us to sign him, and then when I saw Arsenal, I was like, Arsenal got enough left-footed players. What's going on? But no,
not enough now.
I know. It's true, to be fair. So that was an area that I feel like we could have not strengthened because we don't really have that profile. But you see a lot of teams, they have a left-sided centre back. We don't really have that in our squad. So I feel like that this would have added a better balance for us going forward. And maybe it could have been someone that would have been a left back in a long-term replacement for Robertson, for example. The number 6, that was definitely a position that we need strengthening. But I was a little bit disappointed with us just going for Zubimendi because he's got a track record where he doesn't want to leave where he's from. And, Arsenal have tried to sign him. I believe Bayern Munich did as well a couple of years back, Barcelona. So it's not even just like Spain. He doesn't want to leave. He doesn't want to leave his city. So, when a player has shown that sort of, not resentment, but he didn't want to leave, I just felt like Liverpool didn't do their research because they must have swayed him with more of a big financial package to leave where he's from. And according to rumors, his missus didn't want to leave. So there's a lot of factors that, come into a transfer window. It's not just, you place a bid. It's not FC25 where you just place a bid and you get the player, right? It's not how it works. So I was, a little bit disappointed that Liverpool didn't pursue another number 6, but at the same time, the way FSG do business, it's no surprise because they have a list of players or criteria that they follow. And if they don't get their man, they are willing to wait for that right time to get that player. So that's happened in the past. So example would be Van Dijk, where we tried to sign him in the summer. I think we did a bit of dodginess where we spoke to him behind the scenes, and then we got told off by the Premier League for doing that. And then it appeared that we couldn't make a bid for him again, and we ended up signing him in January. So we are willing to wait for that right player at the right time. The thing is with our squad, and I don't know if a lot of people thought of it at the time, when Jurgen Klopp left, he actually left the squad in a good condition. It wasn't really a squad that was depleting, not like Alex Ferguson, where his squad was, in dire need of surgery. We managed to rebuild our midfield last year. We bought about 3-4 players, so that department was certified. I always wanted a backup for Mohamed Salah, so I'm pleased that we got Chiesa. I know some fans are still 50-50 on him just because of his injury record, but even if you get him for half of the season, or if he plays 30 games, you've got a player that is probably on form, one of the best wingers in Europe, in my opinion. So I feel that was a smart signing to get him. I know he's injured right now, which is not helpful, kind of like a lot of the players in your squad as well. But it's just the nature of the game where he's going to take time to get used to the Premier League in terms of the intensity. He didn't really have a pre-season as well, so that doesn't help. So once he's equipped to playing in the Premier League, I feel like he'll be a good signing. So in terms of the summer window, I was more frustrated that we weren't signing players, and I'm sure a lot of Liverpool fans can agree on that. But Chiesa coming, I thought that was a smart move. But a lot of people were telling me that, Chiesa might be a long-term replacement for Salah, which surprised me when people said that. And I didn't really think about it at the time. So that goes on to my next question for you. What have you made of the contractual issues at Liverpool with regards to Trent, Van Dijk, and Mohamed Salah? Because I know you're a big Trent fan, and you've said it on my show before that you rate him as a player. If you were to make a prediction, what happens with these 3 players?
Oh, it's great. I'll buy myself some time talking
Yeah,
about it, to be fair. But yeah, so I had a look into this about a couple of weeks ago during the international break, and I was like,
yeah,
why did Liverpool get into this situation? And as I looked into it, and I found out that, of course, because there's been that bit of it, there's been a change in structure, especially since Klopp announced he was leaving. There was that, was it Julian Ward that came in, Michael
yeah,
Edwards, and then the Hughes brother that you got from Bournemouth
yeah,
in there as well. So you've had quite a bit of upheaval in that sense, and a lot of change there. Yeah, Georgie Smatka, who was there temporarily
yeah.
before that,
For
working
about
on
a
the
few months,
transfers.
yeah,
Yeah, so there has been a lot of change, and it seems like that kind of got neglected and
mm,
left down to run a little bit too late. Because if you had that sort of settled nature up top in
mm,
terms of the structure, that would have been a issue that would have
yeah,
been resolved about a year ago at the very latest. Because
correct.
with how organised you've been in terms of contracts, and that's why you're doing it now. What with Kwanzaa and Kanate,
Yeah,
in making sure their contracts are tied down and well in advance. And but when you do leave that door open for rivals, Real Madrid with Trent,
yeah,
potentially again because of the point that Van Dijk and Salah are at in their career, big paychecks from the Middle East,
yeah,
or anywhere, even USA, even, and
yeah,
a potential better money move for them, and they're getting in their agents' ear, and the agents are saying, look, this is the potential of it here. In terms of the prediction, with Van Dijk, I think it's the easiest one. I think he will stay. I think he will keep Van Dijk. It's but interesting though, because we know with Michael Edwards in how he operates, ages of players, he doesn't
yeah,
like to give them on the fairer side in terms of the decent contracts. Which Van Dijk, he's still the best centre back in the world right now,
yeah,
in my opinion, and performing at that level. With Salah as well, he's still the best performing right winger in the world. And
yeah,
yes, it's they've got to look at the future of the club, not necessarily the immediate present, or is like they've got to look at however many years you're giving them. Are they still going to perform at that contract level in
yeah,
3 years' time? Because they're going to want a 3-year contract because that's what they can get elsewhere, and they know they can. So it's dangerous. And with Trent, of course, that one, if you would have said before, like that's probably the one. Is of course he's going to stay. He's the youngest in terms of them. He's in the prime of his career, just turned 26. He's a scouser. He's come from the academy, but he actually looks the most likely to leave, given the Real Madrid links and Jude Bellingham and whatnot. And I actually, you know what? I'm gonna say they all stay.
mm,
And if they don't, if it's not all of them stay, I think Trent, yeah, Trent's probably the most likely to leave.
mm,
But I think they will all stay. I think that Liverpool will give him a fairer contract, and will Salah actually. I'm umming and ahhing because I forgot about Saudi for Salah.
yeah,
Okay, all right. Okay, I'm going to say this now. This is my final prediction.
mhm.
Trent and Van Dijk will stay, but Salah's going to leave. Salah's going to go to
Ooh,
Saudi at the end of the year.
okay.
I just think, yeah, because of that point in his career, and there was a lot of the rumors last season. Was it this summer or was it last summer?
Both. Yeah, the last summer and
Yeah,
this summer.
yeah. We was talking about the 100 million that they were willing to put in for him.
Yeah,
But I feel like Liverpool want to get some type of money back for it. So I think, yeah, he'll be the one that leaves. Salah will be the one that goes, even though he's been talking the most in terms of the contract. I know he spoke about it at Old Trafford after he had a great performance there, and talking about, yeah, I'm just waiting for them, hear from them. But I think that might be him, just making sure the fans are still staying on his side.
yeah,
But yeah, so Salah to leave, but Trent and Van Dijk to stay. And I know that's quite controversial because Trent's the one who seems like, but okay, I'm gonna, what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna throw it back to you, Ozzy. What do you make of it? Do you
yeah,
understand it from the upheaval in the structure? And what do
yeah.
you think will happen?
No, I think in terms of how you explained it was pretty much spot on. Where there's been a lot of changes at the top and at the bottom, to be fair, in terms of Jurgen Klopp leaving. So when that announcement came, he informed the board in November. So we got the official news in January, I like to say.
Mm-hmm.
So they still had time to kind of figure out what was going to be the next move in terms of the hierarchy. Are we going to have a director of football? What was going to be the new format within the club? So obviously they brought back Michael Edwards. He brought his best mate Richard Hughes. So he did that. And then he brought back Julian Ward as well. So he brought the band back, I guess, to some extent. So obviously, when you make these appointments, all of these appointments were made around May, July.
Yes.
So with the Euros and the Copa America, it was always going to be a difficult task to acquire players in that sort of short time frame. So I
Yeah.
didn't think it was going to be a busy summer. I did expect Liverpool to make a couple of signings, but I feel like with the way Liverpool do business, it wasn't a huge surprise that we only got one player through the door, and it was basically at a bargain price. They went through the sales section and they got ones for themselves. They thought, you know what, let's get Chiesa. So that's definitely the reason why we didn't acquire a lot of players. But in terms of the contract situation, we had Schmaka that came in for between 3 to 6 months. He wasn't here for a long time. He pretty much did the deals last summer. And then after that, I don't think he did much. I think he was here around the club. And then after Klopp made his announcement, he was pretty much gone himself. So a lot has happened over the last year or so, or probably just about a year now in terms of November. So there's what the way you explain it makes perfect sense, because I do feel like us fans, we do get slightly impatient. We're thinking, oh, it's a contract extension. All you got to do is just improve the salary.
Like FC25, Eddie.
Yeah, like there's a lot more to it, especially the players like Mohamed Salah, where he's got a lot of image rights and all that sort of things around him as well. So that's a very complicated deal to conclude. Van Dijk is the same thing, and Trent as well. With Trent signing a new deal with Adidas, having these exclusive boots, there's a lot involved in getting those deals done. So I think for us Liverpool fans, we're just getting slightly edgy or impatient, because once we touch January, these players are free to negotiate a pre-contract deals with clubs abroad. So obviously the clubs that you've mentioned that are linked with these players, they're all abroad. They're not within the Premier League. So I don't expect any of these players to be signed by a Premier League team. But it's an interesting one, because with Trent, and I've said it on record, and it's not something that I'm trying to put on the energy. I just have a gut feeling he's not staying. That's not what I want. I would love for Trent to stay, but something tells me he's not staying. And it's just little comments that he's made in interviews and stuff. I feel like he doesn't see the same level of ambition from the owners. That matches his sort of aspirations, because he's in his mid-20s now. He did an interview a couple of weeks ago with the FA, I think, like a YouTube channel, and mentioned that he's achieved so much in his career so far, but what's the guarantee that he'll achieve the same amount or even more in the next 8 years of his career? And with footballers, they don't have the longest of careers, so it makes sense for him to think like that. And despite being in his mid-20s, he's a very smart and very mature person, so he knows what he's talking about. So I feel like him probably seeing his best mate Jude Bellingham at Madrid, it might sway him to go to that direction. And I don't think it's got nothing to do with Liverpool as a club or the fan base. I think it's just the ambitions. I don't think it'll be different if let's say we win some trophy this year. It might change it altogether. But the feeling I get is I think the club haven't shown a strong stance in the transfer windows over the years, and I think that could be the key. We signed Chiesa. Yes, on paper that's a great signing, but he's a player that's been, he suffered quite a few injuries over the years, so he's not the top player that we saw a few years ago in the Euros for Italy. So that is that's the thing. I think Trent might go. I think Van Dijk will stay. I see him staying. Salah, I think he wants to stay, but it depends on the likes of Michael Edwards. Is he willing to give him a 2-year or a 3-year contract? At the minute, is speculation. On evidence in terms of what he's doing right now, you have to give him a contract, because despite his age, forget his age for a second, he's breaking records on a weekly basis. He's doing big numbers, and he's been doing it for year in, year out. And I feel like that Saudi move will always be there. That's not a move that's going to, it's not like a one-time offer. He'll get that deal when he's 40 years old. They will always want to sign him due to him as being a very popular figure in the Arab world. He will get that move. So I don't feel like he's ready to go there, personally. I still feel like he wants to build his legacy at Liverpool. And I feel like he just wants to continue playing at the highest level before he makes that transition. Because with the Saudi League, obviously, they've got a lot of finance, so they will easily sway players to go there. But I think he's thinking about legacy, where he wants to be known as the best ever in the Premier League or whatever league he's playing in. So Trent, unfortunately, I think it will possibly leave, which hurts me to say out loud.
Yeah.
But I'm being honest. And Van Dijk, I think he'll stay. Salah, I think with Mohamed Salah, it depends on the club.
Yeah.
I think that's 50-50. The way Michael Edwards does business,
he's ruthless.
He's ruthless, and it comes to age as well. And I think Salah wouldn't even ask for increased terms. I think he just wants a contract extension. So he'll say, look, keep me on the same terms. I'm happy to do another 2-3 years. But are they willing to give him the 2-3 years? That's the big deal right there. So
that's the question, Ozzy, and that's what I mean in terms of Salah. That's why I'm like, oh, I've got, of course, the doubts in and around Trent. It comes from Trent, doesn't it? Not the club. Whereas the doubts in and around the Salah contracts is the club, because if Salah gets the contract from a 2-year from Liverpool, but then they say, I think he won a 3, because Saudi will say, we'll give you a 4, and then his agent's going to say, come on, Mohammed, which one's the wisest decision to make? Like you can go to Saudi, you will sell out there, you mean in terms of sell out the stadiums and all the image rights, and you'll make even way more money than you could do in England. But if you chase that legacy and you get a big injury in next year or something, or something can change, the club can go in a different direction or whatever. It's dangerous then. So 100% Ozzy, I agree with your reasoning for all of them. I absolutely do. And that's why it's tough to call. Whereas I think the easiest one is Van Dijk, because of how centre-backs age and the level he's playing at now. Centre-backs, again, you can look, we see him in Thiago Silva, and I think Van Dijk's a better player than Thiago Silva, and the impact that he had, and he's not slowing down anytime soon. So with Van Dijk, I think that one's almost certain. He'll be. He's captain? Is he captain now?
He's captain for Liverpool and Netherlands. So he's a very sort of a big figure within the dressing room, and I feel like the young players that are coming through, they aspire to be at his level in terms of being at a high level and the longevity of the way he's played his career. So you need to have those kind of examples in your club. And the funny thing is, all 3 of these players are captains to some extent. So it's Van Dijk, Trent is the vice captain, and then you've got Salah, who's just below that as well. So we've got a list of these 3 are very experienced, and I feel like if you get rid of any of them, I actually feel like we've taken 2 steps back with each player.
100%. You can't replace that quality. Like if Man City managed to do it, because the Pep's a genius and the riches that Man City have. It's like us, if we're talking about, the reason why Van Dijk, another reason he'll stay, is because it seems like Real Madrid have got their sights on Saliba and a bit of a younger a younger centre back that they want to get for that side. So 100, you will take a step back. And what I wanted to ask you, Ozzy, again, because you're bringing in Mamadashvili for next summer. What's the case with Alisson? And if we're talking about potentially Alisson, Van Dijk, Trent, and Salah all leaving in one summer, that's more than 2 steps back. Those are your 4 world-class players. Those are the generational players that you've got right there.
That is unimaginable for me right now. Do you think that far ahead? The Mamadashvili one definitely came as a surprise. Obviously, he had a fantastic Euros for Georgia, and I did hear about his ability in La Liga. I think it was linked with a move to Chelsea before the Euros as well. So he was a player that was definitely had suitors. I was definitely surprised by it, because we don't normally do these sort of deals where we do it in a year in advance. I know we did it with Naby Keita, and that, the less spoken about that, the better. But it was a surprise that we invested in a goalkeeper, because it's not an area that, for me, requires strengthening. Because Kelleher, for me, is a fantastic number 2 and probably deserves to be a number 1 elsewhere, especially in the Premier League. So it's a strange one that we've made that signing, despite that he's a good goalkeeper. And there were question marks. Is Alisson leaving? Has he said something that, maybe it's 1 more year and then he's going? I don't know. From the comments that he said after that signing, he said he was part of that process where they actually liaised with him and said that, we're thinking of signing him as a long-term successor to you. What do you think? And he said, yeah, he's a great goalkeeper. So the Kelleher one is probably the one where, unfortunately for him, I don't think he was made aware that they were signing a new goalkeeper. So that was a slight slap in his face because he was probably told to stay for another year just to compete for Alisson. It's a strange one, to be fair. But having said that, Liverpool do need a very good number 2. And the reason I say that, Alisson is injury prone. And
That's what I
for a
mean.
goalkeeper, it's crazy the amount of games he missed. Because Kelleher would have left Liverpool a long time ago had it not been for Alisson's injury. Because he does actually end up playing 20 odd games in a season. And that's not through rotation, it's because Alisson's been out with injuries. So I feel like they've pretty much future-proofed that position. I think next year would be a thing where he comes in as a number 2, and then maybe I see Alisson leaving like a year later. I don't think it would be next year. That would be sort of like, if I'm trying to be Mystic Oz right now, I think it would be one more year and then see the situation. Because if he picks up another injury and Mamardashvili does a madness, then he will probably end up being number 1. It's a possibility.
It's a clearer pathway for Mamardashvili, isn't it? Then,
yeah. And he knows he's the long-term successor. And with goalkeepers, I think with Alisson, I can't even see him moving to like Saudi or anything. But you just never know. You just never know nowadays, really. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I think we've signed a good goalkeeper, but a lot of fans will tell you that wasn't priority. That money should have been spent on a centre back and a number 6 and all that stuff. But you can never.
The market dictates that, though, doesn't it? Because we need a 6 as well, Loz. Like currently, we're stacked in that area. I think out of the 3 clubs, we've probably got the most depth there in terms of, because we've got Rice, Partey, and Jorginho, like in terms of quality and depth. But because of Jorginho and Partey contract running up and the ages that they're at, we've been looking for a 6. Like as well, but there's no quality in the market, and there was last year. But look at how much they went for. Lavia, still unproven and injury prone, and Caicedo went for 115 million or 20 million. So that's what I'm saying, man. Like, it's very scarce in that position in the market. Not just us, Bayern Munich need it. You can argue that Real Madrid might need it now because of Cruz. Barcelona definitely need it. So. It's not just in England, it's in Europe as well.
If you had to pick someone to come into Arsenal as a number 6, who would be your first choice?
Like realistic but ideal? It's a great question. Fantastic. I would probably... I would have said Zubimendi going into the summer, because I like him. I like how intelligent he is, and he's just perfect for what Arteta wants to build. I did like Onana as an alternative. I was on that, and I was having quite a few debates, because there's a lot of Arsenal fans saying he's not quite good enough. But I like what he gives in terms of physicality. But he went to Villa. It's very difficult. I need to think. That's a good question.
There aren't many options out there, to be honest with you. I think in terms of the Premier League, the one that comes to my mind is Wharton. I feel like he's the next one that's up and coming, but he'd cost an arm and a leg.
I forgot Bruno Guimaraes, Bruno G. Yeah, he would have been good for us, but a lot of money again. And I don't think he's worth the 100 million, but I didn't think Rice was either. But there's not many who are worth that unless you're getting a goal scorer. I don't think you're worth 100
million. Because to think about spending 100 million on a number 6 is just outrageous. Like, you'd never do it back in the day, and it's just like, wow, to get a number 6 for 100 million, it's just ludicrous. But like I said,
the reason they're that much because they're so little, they're sparse.
Yeah, that is so true. I think the players one player that I like, but I need to see a bit more of him, is Varela from Porto. He's got a bit of Mascherano about him, so he's a player that we had over the years at Liverpool. So has that kind of mold about him where he's very tenacious, very aggressive, but has a good passing range on him. So
he was very good against us. Very good.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, so he's a player I do like. But the funny thing with him, we were supposed to sign him a couple of years ago, but we decided, he might not be ready for Europe. So then we let him just go to Paul. And that's what Liverpool have done over the years. We've always scouted these players, but we haven't really pursued it any further.
Yeah.
So it's quite frustrating from a transfer point of view. Just gonna go through some of the comments. We've got Ends. It says, "Bless up, bro. Have a great stream. Big up, Ends, as always. Appreciate your comment.
Big up, Ends."
And Daz says, "Big up, Ozzy." And guess that's Tariq. Big up to
up,
Daz. And he says, "Question for Tariq: where can you see this one? Also, where can you pressure us?"
Great question. I think the cliches where the game's won is in the midfield battle. I think that's key. With Arsenal, that's our strong. No, it's not, because we haven't got Odegaard. But it's an area where I look at Liverpool and say, if we're going to win this game, I think you've got more killers than us anyway in terms of goal scorers. And even if Jota is out, which he could be touch and goal whether he's available, but you've got Salah.
Yeah.
So you've got the best killer in the Premier League, probably second to Haaland, but I think better footballer than Haaland anyway, in Salah. And we don't have, and our next best killer is probably Saka, but again, he's not on Salah's level. So I think in terms of that and how limited we are in our defense at the moment, the midfield, where I can see us pressuring you, it's going to have to be if Saka's fit. And if Saka's fit, then it's going to have to be out wide, not just on the right, but on the left as well. Because usually Robertson has a very good game against Saka, and he gives him the physical treatment. He's very strong on him, but don't think I want to hear your thoughts. But when I watched you against Chelsea, I thought Robertson was the weakest your defense. To be honest, like he seemed quite passive in that game and letting Madueke come on to him. And I think if you do that with Saka, he's more dangerous than Madueke. Yeah. But I don't think, even if he does start, I don't think he'll do that to Saka because he's had good joy against him in the past. And I don't think Saka has the same like burst that Madueke, explosiveness that Madueke has. And I think Robertson could back himself in that against Saka. But if you give him time, lift his head up, Saka can put us money on the sixpence. He can shoot. He can go with his right foot. He can do whatever. So it's about not giving Saka that time. But then Martinelli out on the left, who I've been a staunch defender of him this season. You may have seen it on Twitter or whatnot, but there's been a lot of abuse he's faced, and I didn't think it was right. Even when he wasn't scoring, I saw his performances take a massive improvement from last year. He didn't quite get the goals. He wasn't finishing the chances like against Atalanta, like against Spurs. But now those chances are falling in. And he's getting a bit of luck as well, hitting the post and smacking off back of the keeper in midweek. But he looks a lot more sharp and fit. And we've seen him come up against Trent, and Trent has a hard time defending up against him. But I think when we played you at Anfield last season, when he got past Trent, he had to try and get past Ibu. And Ibu was brilliant. I thought Martinelli was good, but Ibu Konate was brilliant in the home game. Not so much in the thingy in Emirates, but again, the game was decided by essentially a mistake from Van Dijk and Alisson, the miscommunication. So and then the game kind of got away after Ibu got sent off. But the wide areas for us, because I think the midfield, we don't have the creativity of Odegaard, missing him sorely, but we've got the dual winners, the battlers, Partey, Rice, Marino, whoever he starts, because they're going to have to protect that defense. Because that defense, what do we know Arsenal for? Is having a settled back line. Ben White, Saliba, Gabriel, and then whoever's at left back. Calafiori this season, ideally. But we know Calafiori, no Saliba, no Tomiyasu, who's had a good game against Salah in the past. Zinchenko, who Salah loves to face, or is it going to be Miles Lewis-Skelly, a 17, 18-year-old making his first Premier League start? And then Kivior at centre-back. So, definitely the midfield. But where you can pressure us, if you get past our midfield, you might have some joy against that back line.
Skelly needs to make sure he gets his earrings off this time, like he did that.
Yes, I know. Arteta was fuming at that. Did you see him on the sideline? Because he's like, we've already played enough games and minutes with 10 men. We don't need to do it out of no red cards.
Yeah, that was quite funny. But the point you made about Robertson, he's having these phases this season where, and I don't mean to be rude to him, I feel like age is catching up on him a little bit. So he'll play one game where he's playing to his level, and then it'll just drop. And I feel like over the years that he's been so overworked, playing at such an intense level, is
Yes,
catching up on him.
that's it.
So against Chelsea, he for me he was one of the weak defenders. I think I gave him the lowest rating out of all of our defenders in my match reaction. So I was not surprised that Tsimikas started against Red Bull Leipzig because he needed a breather, and that's what's happening right now so far this season, where Robertson tends to get rested midweek, and then it's where he faces a Premier League opposition on the weekend. So that's what I'm expecting for this fixture as well. But yeah, it's an area that I definitely feel like Liverpool need to strengthen next summer. Tsimikas is good as a backup, but I feel like we need to think about someone to take the mantle from Robertson going forward, because I do feel like he's a good defender, but he's not as dynamic as he used to be. And obviously, age catches up with everyone, so it's understandable. But Liverpool need to be forward thinking in terms of their recruitment there.
Yeah.
Got a few more comments here from Fozzie. He says, yes, my two bros in one place. Big up, Fozzie. Appreciate your comment as always. Anford Uncle Roz says, big up Ozzy and guests in chat. Big up Anford Uncle Roz. He says, smash the likes and subs. Please do, guys. Daz says, Fozzie, mate. Big up to Rods. Everyone's just saying hello to each other. Eddie's Football Waffle says, big up Ozzy and Tariq. Should big be a good game. Arsenal, you must, is what Eddie's telling me right now.
And as a Man United fan, he's not going to be cheering for Arsenal much, but definitely this weekend.
No, he's definitely not. So big up to Eddie there. Richard, he says, hi Ozzy, Tariq talk, chat and guest. Big up Richard. He says, welcome to you, Richard. He says, how are you all doing? God is everything, merciful, powerful and forgiving. Arsenal versus LFC, must win game for both and need to put the pressure on City. Certainly is a big game for both teams. He's also said Liverpool next 5 games, Arsenal away, and that's in the Premier League. Brighton, then in the we've got Brighton, and then we've got them again in the League Cup. Then we've got Leverkusen, and then we've got Villa. So tough games ahead for Liverpool. Kelleher needs to be on his A game and time management. That's the thing. This is the test. I think the fixtures in October and November will determine how strong Liverpool are going forward, because I feel like, I know on paper we had the easier fixtures, but this is the real test now, where you're playing games every 2-3 days now. You're not really getting much rest. You are, even if you don't like it, you have to rotate your squad now, because Arne Slot doesn't like to make a lot of changes with his lineups, but he has no choice. He has to rest certain players. He needs to manage their game, as Richard just mentioned there. So Kelleher, I have faith in him. I think he's a very good goalkeeper. He had a great performance against Red Bull Leipzig, made a lot of saves, especially in the second half. Probably allowed us to win that game, if I'm being brutally honest. So I have no issues with Kelleher. I think he'll have a decent games, I should say, because Alisson's out for, I think, a few more weeks. So he's got a lot of game time going forward. And Richard also said, we need goals, input from Chiesa, Gakpo, Nunes, Diaz, Jota, and also midfielders like Szoboszlai, McAllister, Granberg, Elliott, and Jones. So all of the players you mentioned there, some of them aren't even available. So the likes of Chiesa, not sure what the impact of his injuries right now, but he's not been available for about 2-3 weeks. Nunes, what do you make of Nunes, Tariq? Because he's a player, I feel like some sections love him and they are loyal to the ground when it comes to Darwin Nunes. And there's some fans that they're like, you know what? I'm not interested anymore. He's had 2-3 years. He hasn't really had much of an impact. What's your viewpoint on Darwin Nunes?
If he was like, I think I would be more leaning towards I'm a fan of Nunes, to be honest. And I know how frustrating he is in terms of his finishing, but the cliches that get bandied around for him is the chaos he brings, just sheer chance creation and goal threat. Like you cannot replace that really, because that's such a hard thing to get. I think with Arsenal right now, we need someone with that transitional threat. We don't have much goal threat apart from Saka, Martinelli when he's firing. But if Martinelli's not firing, Trossard, and then beyond that, I get him like, okay, we're chipping in from set pieces or long shots and whatnot. With Nunes, he's a constant threat. He's a threat on the pitch. The question is he going to finish? And his decision making in the final third. As long as he's not a key starter, I think he's brilliant in terms of the role that he's got. Keep him there. And if he's happy with that role where he comes in if Jota's not fit, or if you get another striker and he's like more of a second fiddle because you can play him out on the left, I think that's a good role. And again, you've got to be honest and realistic because it's not FC25, it's not Football Manager, where you're going to get quality players that are going to be happy sitting on the bench.
Yeah,
You get your replacement for Nunes will have to be a starter,
correct.
essentially, because you're not going to get a better second choice player than Nunes because otherwise he's not going to Liverpool because he will go to a team where he's going to be first choice because we know how again sparse the striker market is. We need one.
Yeah.
We'd love to have one, and it's a first choice. So I like Nunes. I do think as long as he's not the week in week out starter, I think he's got a good role for a title winning team.
Yeah, I think the role that he's playing right now definitely suits him because I feel like there's less pressure on him as well.
Yeah.
When he was playing week in, week out under Klopp, I could tell the pressure was getting to him because if you make one miss, the fans might not, show the frustration within the crowd, but he felt it, he sensed it. And he's one of those strikers where, unfortunately, he needs a few chances to bag a goal.
Yeah, yeah.
But at this level, you want to have a bagsman that can, with one or two chances, he's hitting the back of the net. But you mentioned it perfectly there. There isn't many gunmen out there for you to just acquire. And like you said, if you're going to sign someone that's going to be a backup, they're not going to be of the highest quality. It's going to be a young and up and coming striker or someone that's a bit more experienced. It's one way or the other. You're not going to get someone that's touching their prime years to that nature. So for me, I feel like Liverpool looking forward need to get a striker that is the mainstay in the team. So that means Jota would have to drop to the bench. And that's not down to Jota's quality, it's his availability.
Absolutely.
It's a big concern for him. And I feel like when he's on song, I think he's one of the best finishers in our squad, full stop. He's really good, very clinical. It's just his injuries, unfortunately, let him down sometimes. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on in the future. But in terms of this season, I'm pleased with his contribution. He had a funny couple of games for me where against Chelsea, when he came on, Nunes did everything right. He just didn't score a goal. Against Leipzig, he scored the goal, but his overall play wasn't quite there. So he's a complete mixed bag. So you don't know what you get with him sometimes. But what you do know is he's a try. He'll definitely give his all. He'll press aggressively, whether he's bashing people around, do what you got to do on the pitch. But I feel like for this season, this role suits him where he's not under huge pressure, but he still feels the importance of being a squad player because if we need a goal, he's the one that we're going to look at on the bench. And I feel like that does give him a bit of pride when he gets onto the pitch. So it's all about man management. And I feel like Arne Slot, from what I've seen, does have good man management skills. So that's something going forward where I feel like it will definitely help.
The final thing I'd say on it is his best quality, to sum it up, and not just in terms of his player and ability, is what he does in terms of momentum.
Yeah.
Momentum is key in football. Like on the weekend, Arsenal could be dominating and we could be having chances and we could be in the ascendancy. But if Darwin Núñez is on that pitch, I know all it takes is one pass from Trent, one pass from Salah in. And if he misses, even if he misses and it's an open chance, what does that do to players? We've played football, guys. We know, even just how you experience it as a fan. As soon as you see that, we're a bit cautious now. We've got to be a bit wary because of that threat. That's what Núñez does, whether he starts or it's off the bench. Even if he misses those chances, and yes, for a Liverpool fan, it's frustrating, but to us as the rival and what he makes you feel, you got to remember that part of the game. How does this player make the opposition feel? And when a Núñez is on the pitch, I feel the threat. I feel like because he's quicker, he's strong, his aerial ability is really good. His movement in the box is very Uruguayan, very much like Edison Cavani. Like, he's constantly moving. So he's a threat. That's what you have with a Núñez, and that's what I mean. Like, that's what separates him from the others, like a Jesus. We don't have that threat with Jesus, a goal threat. Yeah, Jesus might do a jinky dribble and he can beat a couple of men, but you know that end product is very poor. Whereas with Núñez, it can be a mixed bag. It can be poor, it can be great. He can stick one into the top corner like he did against Bournemouth, or dink a keeper like Brentford, but then he might do what he did against Chelsea last year in those games, or Everton. So I just feel like he's a big threat, and you have to appreciate that, I think, as a fan, because if you lose it, then again, it's a bit like Szoboszlai when we spoke about earlier. You don't have that. You really notice it.
You miss it a lot. Just wanted to touch on Jesus actually, because I find him such a strange player. Because when you signed him, I think we spoke about it as well. I thought it was a great signing for you guys. I thought
Yeah.
this could be the time for him to become that prolific striker that we all assume that he could be, because we've seen his level of finishing. And we're thinking, do you know what? If he gets a run of games, because at City he never really got that. So if he gets a
No.
run of games, he could be that killer in the box. It just hasn't worked, and I don't know what it is. And to see him as a winger, he doesn't. In terms of the way he plays, I don't know if he suits the wing, and I think that is his best position. Funny enough, but I don't know. He for me looks like a striker, but he just doesn't finish like a prolific one. What's your viewpoint on Jesus? Are you content with him just being more of a wide forward, or do you think he's going to be playing in the future where he's more of a rotational one, where he comes in and covers the front line more or less?
Yeah, it's a good question that is. Actually, in the first part, there's two reasons for me why I don't think it's gone how we expected. One, injuries. Again,
Yeah,
every time he looks like we're going to get a fit Jesus who's firing very at the start of the season in that in 22-23, a great start, a great first 13 games or so that he had, and then next thing you know, the injury from the World Cup, and you're like, oh my days, we've lost him for loads of time, and he's not able to. He's never had that knee sorted, and it's kept him out last season too, and then the knock-on effects. So physically, he's not been at it. He's not been able to get the consistent minutes like he didn't at City, but that was for more rotation reasons because I had Aguero and the likes of there. And with Jesus, another key problem is when I'm seeing him play centrally, you can't find him because he is a striker that likes to drift out wide, that likes to. He's a bit of an individualist, I'd say, Oz, in terms of
yeah,
how he plays. You have to kind of build the team around him and you play to his way. But Arsenal, because of his injuries, have gone in a different direction now.
yeah,
Whereas Havertz is our main number 9. Of course, Havertz wasn't brought in to be that, but because of Jesus' injuries and him not necessarily settling as easy in the midfield, Havertz became our number 9 now. And the contrast is, our players know where to find Havertz. He's a focal point. That's why with Arsenal's, if you look at our numbers statistically, we're completely different in terms of how we play at the back to you. You guys are very good at playing at the back, and that's where you do. Whereas we go long and we're very direct. And Raya does that, Saliba, Calafiori, whoever, and you play off of Kai Havertz, and he's excellent at that. Whereas with Jesus, you're not having that because he's not physically at it. He's not physically at the level where he was moving defenders. We saw it for the best period was what 30 minutes against you. And when we were 2-0 up and we bowled it 2-2, that we haven't seen that Jesus on a consistent basis enough. So injuries and not being able to find him, that's the two reasons. And I think because of that, because we can't find him as a central focal point, out wide is where he's best because he's still got the technical ability. He can still beat a man. He's still very, very slick, and he's still good at hold up play. You can go direct to him out wide because the fullbacks are different, built different to centre backs, aren't they? If Jesus is playing up against you on the weekend, I definitely don't want to be him up front because Konate and Van Dijk at this moment, at this current Jesus, will eat him. We'll eat him and gobble him up and spit him out and move. Whereas if you put him in the fullback, okay, Robertson, you want to get a bit physical? Okay, we got someone who can do that and rough you up as well. Tsimikas or Trent or whatever. So I think his future isn't long at Arsenal, but I think he'll probably be gone in the summer, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah, but in the immediate future, I think he's best out wide. And my false, I'd probably put Trossard at a false 9 before Jesus. In fact,
that's interesting. Trossard, to be fair, I feel like he's such an underrated player. I feel like he should be starting a lot more. Even in that false 9, I feel like it really suits his game.
The problem with Trossard is exactly us. When he plays well, he's very underrated, but he's very inconsistent. That's something that we're really seeing and noticed is, you feel like you see this cycle a lot. Oh, why isn't Trossard starting? He's come off the bench and he's impacted the game. And then he starts and he's anonymous. And did you see the Bournemouth game? Did you watch it? He was atrocious. It was
Yeah.
his error that led to the Saliba sending off. He missed the penalty against Shakhtar Donetsk, but even
Yeah.
against Bournemouth and Shakhtar, he was giving the ball away in suicide areas and not
Yeah.
and making the wrong decision. And that's the thing with Trossard. He's good, but I've noticed it for Belgium too. Very inconsistent. Doesn't
Yeah.
always perform. He doesn't get a run of games because he doesn't perform well enough to deserve the run of games. But when he's off the bench, he thrives. That's his. He's like a mini Jota in that sense.
Yes. Great
Jota
comparison. Great
struggles with
comparison.
consistency because of fitness, not because of ability. When he's like, because you can tell when Jota's carrying something. Like I can tell when watching him.
Yeah.
But with Trossard, he's not carrying an injury, but he just drops and his performances go out of the window.
Yeah. I think it's a mental thing. I feel like he's the perfect impact player, but when you start him, he's just, I feel like he might be one of those players where he knows if he gets 20 minutes, he's going to go all guns blazing in those 20 minutes. But for the full 90, he doesn't know how to manage that. Does that make sense? So it's a bit like, do I use my energy now or do I, what do I do? I don't think he has don't want to be rude, like the game intelligence to play like a full 90 because
Origi was like that.
Yeah, perfect example. Origi was like that because Origi had some of the best clutch moments. But when you start him, you're thinking, what's he doing in our lineup? Because he would literally disrupt our attack. He wouldn't really hold it up properly. He wouldn't lay it off. So he wasn't any use to us. He was better coming off the bench where you know that he's going to go direct. And that's when we start pinging in long balls towards the box. And that's when you know maybe he can do a bit of something chaotic in that danger zone. And maybe we'll get a goal out of it as well. So some players are just suited to play. I think for top clubs, they're suited for the bench where they come off as impact players. If they're at a smaller team, respectively, then they can be starters there because they don't have that pressure for playing for a big club. Because, you know, it's all good and well playing for the Liverpools and the Arsenals. You have to have a different level of mentality to play for those teams. You can't just be, you can't be based on talent. You have to be thick skin, number one, and you have to have a different desire, a different mentality to go into these games because you won't be a star every time. But when you are given the minutes, you have to deliver. Whether it's for 10 minutes or 90 minutes, you have to deliver every time. So that's the struggle I think us teams are having with acquiring new players is that who can we bring on to bridge that gap? Because it's a very, very difficult position to have a strong bench. Liverpool, thankfully, have had players come through the ranks that are, you know, like the Kwanzaa and the Bradleys. That's helped us strengthen our squad. But generally, you'd have to pay about 40 million each for those type of players to get in your squad. So, you know, it's not easy trying to acquire those type of players.
No.
So we'll go through some more comments. We've got Mark K says you never walk alone. Big up, Mark. That says same as last night, but drop Cody Diaz Robo. So we'll do the lineups very shortly. Daz, I saw your comment last night as well. So you want us to do combined 11? We'll do that very quickly as well. Richard has says Liverpool down for this season will be injuries and small squad that may cost us the Premier League, the Champions League, the EFL, and FA Cup. Liverpool needs to strengthen in DM, LCB, and proper number 9.
Richard, you could swap Liverpool and put AFC and Arsenal if they're the exact same things, brother.
Same thing. That's the thing. And I feel like, because when I do my analysis, when I do the sort of pre-predictions for the league, every squad is not complete. Even Man City have areas where they don't have the strength in depth. So they don't have 6 top midfielders. They've got 4 or 5, and they've got a couple of youth players. It's just how it is. So it's very difficult to get squad players and at a good level as well. Because it's all good and well signing an unknown player from South America here and there. But it's not just down to the quality. Are they ready to play for the first team? Are they established enough to understand what is expected from them? Whether that's from a physical point of view of playing in the Premier League or game intelligence. Because tactically, our football is different to other countries as well. So different cultures have different philosophies. Is he aligned with that? You just never know. And some players just need time. Whether it's a language barrier or if it's just getting used to the weather, you know, it could be a lot of factors for a lot of these players that come from abroad. So it's never quite easy just to get these players. But in terms of areas, I couldn't agree more, Richard. The DM is definitely a role that I would like us to add, but maybe not as much as before because of the rise of Gravenberch right now. I feel like it might be someone that is more so of a cover player and a
Yeah.
more defensive minded as well, because there will be games where we need like an enforcer to come off the bench and, mark the number 10 or just break up the play in certain areas. So we do need that player. We have Endo in terms of the short term, but maybe we need his kind of long term successor, a
Mm.
player that's younger, that has a bit more of a passing range. So who knows? But in terms of Liverpool, we'll see. Transfers, we don't do it in abundance. We do make that odd signing in January, but you never know. We've got a new regime now at FSG. We might have to wait until next summer until we see any movement there. So let's see how that goes. Rich has also said Liverpool needs to break low block teams down like Nottingham Forest that come to Anfield only to defend and get one chance. Listen, we've struggled with low blocks for years and years from what I remember as a Liverpool fan. So that's always been our Achilles heel. Arne Slot still talks about that Nottingham Forest defeat every week. It hasn't gone out of his mind. I think he probably wakes up during the night and gets nightmares about it as well. So it's one that I haven't forgotten, but he talks about it a lot. So it's just one of those games we just kind of have to let go. But you're right. We do struggle against the low block teams. I definitely agree with that one.
And that's probably his only mistake, to be honest with you, that he's made. And
Yeah.
the reason why I think he lost that one is because that came after the international break and he didn't rotate. But look what he did against Chelsea. As soon as I saw the lineup against Chelsea, I went, he's a quick learner because no McAllister, no Diaz, because they come back from South America. He started them against Forest, and it wasn't, and I didn't think it was the right thing. You saw you guys gassed out and you lost sort of ideas and everything towards the end. Once Forest was settled and had a foothold. But he's understood that, and he understood it very quickly. That's where, again, because, and that's a mistake for me anyway. I'm not sure. I know you're a sensible fan, Ozzy, so I'm sure you'll agree with this. Is you can accept that for a manager in his first season. He's never dealt with a club like Liverpool with the quality and depth that he's got. Finals, you don't have that. You don't. No matter, even if you're a top team in your league, you don't have that. Because the Premier League and how many competitions that we've got and the money and the finances, whatnot, you have better quality and depth. He probably didn't think, oh, we're playing against a mid-table team. Yeah, they might not be at their sharpest, but in the Premier League, you need to, as long as you've got fit players really who are ready and sharp. But he's learned from that, and it's only been a blip in the road for you guys. I'm sure you're going to have more, of course, because there's more learning curves. As again, football doesn't really start for me until December, because when the games, as you said, every 2-3 days, you don't even have that in December, Mo. You have 1 to 2 days.
It's so true. And you know what? I totally agree with you. I think I don't think he didn't disrespect Nottingham Forest, but he just assumed that we can use these players that have just come from South America. They can play an hour, and then we can kind of rotate from there on. But it didn't work. So thankfully, he's learned from that lesson. But that happens with all new managers, especially I remember when Benitez came. We used to use to like West Brom and all these teams, because he never got the concept of how physical the league was, especially our away games. We lost so many away games in our first season under Benitez, but that's why he signed the likes of Peter Crouch, where you had a physical presence up top. We didn't have that type of player at the time. So with managers, they will learn, they will evolve. But look, if that's the only mistake he's made, it's not a big one in my opinion, because you are going to get defeats here and there. Against Forest, it's kind of like, we can always just use that example. Oh, it's a low block team, we couldn't break them down. But after that, how did we react? And that's what shows me that, do you know what? He's a very astute coach. He knows he made a slight error there, but he modified and made sure that we're not going to make that mistake again. So that's what I want to see. I want to see progression with this coach. And so far, I'm seeing it. So, some fans still a bit on the fence with the coach. From what I've seen, I've been impressed with his start to his Liverpool career. Richard says, question for all, excluding the big European powerhouse clubs, which player or players would you take for Arsenal and Liverpool in January 2025 to challenge for trophies and put the club forward?
I kind of mentioned mine with Bruno Guimaraes earlier.
Yes, you did mention him. Yes. So that would be your one. My one I would love him as well, too. I think it'd be fantastic in our team. So we're probably going to go for the same players, to be honest with you.
100%.
I wouldn't mind Guimaraes. I think he'd be a fantastic player in our team. And he can play in different roles, because I know for Newcastle, he's adapted that holding role as well. that can be box to box. So you've got a multifunctional midfielder there. So for me, he would tick the box. So yeah, I'd probably go for Gomes as well. I don't think there's many players out there. If I had to come up with alternatives, Varela is someone that I really like as well as a defensive midfielder. And I do like the look of Edison from Atalanta. He's an interesting profile as well. He's quite similar to Gomes in terms of stylistically, where he's good at everything. He's a jack of all trades type of player, but very efficient on the ball, has a great engine, can roam around the pitch. So
very good against us as well. We played him earlier in the season. Their man of the match.
Very good player. So that'd be someone that I'd consider as well. And Richard says, question, what trophies will Arsenal and Liverpool win this season? Your honest and hand on heart answer.
Oh. Okay. I think the most realistic one out of the bet major is the Premier League for Arsenal. But we need to get through this injury drought. We do this injury crisis. Sorry, we need to get through that. As long as we have our players fit for the second half of the season and we're in close touching distance, we don't even need to be top. Let's say within four points within you City, I think we can do it. But that we just need to get we can't. But I always said this: if we get to February and we're more than 4 points behind either you or City, I think it's done. But if we're within 4 points, so that's what, 2 games essentially, and then we've still got to play City, and we've still got to play you. I think we can. But keeping players fit, Premier League. What about you? Do you think you're more realistic to potentially get the Champions League, given Liverpool's history and heritage in the competition?
I think we'll have a good run in the Champions League. Whether we win it, it remains to be seen. In terms of the Premier League campaign, obviously we're top of the league, so I'm not going to be ashamed to say we're going to win the league. I just feel like, kind of what Richard alluded to earlier on, I feel like our squad is quite small in comparison to previous years under Jurgen Klopp. So, you've got an injury crisis, which we'll touch upon later in the show. If Liverpool have 1 or 2 important players out of the team, we have good players to kind of cover those roles for a certain amount of games, but you can certainly feel the level of drop with those players. So so for me, it's like you said, keeping the players fit. I feel like we will challenge for the title, whether we win it or not. It comes down to City. I feel like it's for City to lose, for both of us, if I'm being honest. If they're on song, they will go out and win with flying colours. In the Champions League, I do expect us to go for the latter stages. Will we win it? Not too sure. Question marks. And I'm probably thinking of Real Madrid due to their heritage. They just seem to win everything in that competition. So if we come across them further down the line, it's a bit of a problem. We don't have a great record over the last few years with them as well. So I think hand on heart will probably, I would say we'd win a domestic trophy. So either FA Cup or Carabao Cup. And for me, finishing the top 3 would be a good season. And that might sound like I'm very downplaying it, but I said this early in the season because with Arne Slot, he's having a fantastic start, but nothing's guaranteed. There's a lot of games to be played over the season. So for me, I feel like this first season of his has to be a bit more realistic in terms of expectations. We can't just assume because we're having such a great start that we're going to go on and win the league. Football doesn't work like that. We've got a lot of games to play. Players can complain about how many games they're playing. If Liverpool are going through all of the competition to the final, we're playing about 60, 70 games throughout the whole season, which is a crazy amount of games to play. So there's a reason why the quad hasn't been done, because Liverpool have tried and we've fallen apart because we've had injuries as well. So these things just don't happen. And it's because the FA probably don't help us in that regard when teams play on a Tuesday or Wednesday night. I think in the Champions League, they might even introduce Thursday night from what I've heard.
We played on a Thursday. I don't think it's happening again, unless it's in the knockout rounds, I think,
Oh, thank God. Yeah, because that's just peculiar to have that for Champions League. And to have a midday kickoff, for example, is just wild. Or you're playing even on a Saturday is wild. Other leagues always consider the fixture list where if you play European football, you are expected to play on a Sunday. So you just get that extra day of rest or extra day of training. However you want to utilize it, it's up to the teams. We don't really get that sort of special treatment in this country. We don't even get a winter break to an extent. So
no, not this year either.
No. So
and is there AFCON again?
Do you know what?
AFCON in Jan.
I'm gonna have to Google that. AFCON January. If it
20.
is, oh my god. No, it's 2026.
Oh, is
Oh,
it?
wait,
No, it's 25, isn't it?
no, wait. Let me have a look. Will be
I think
2025. Will be held in January 2025. No, so it's next year.
yeah, so this season, isn't it? Because 25, January 25
No, it
is
says
when
December 21st of December 2025 to
oh, is it?
18th of January 2026. That seems a bit longer than normal. So that's even worse. Obviously, we're thinking a year ahead now, but
Yeah.
so if you've got African players, you are not having them during the Christmas period. That's crazy.
Exactly. Yeah, you
That
are
is
right.
crazy. You're not having them in the big chunk of the games that we have in that period, and it's make or break. Let's be honest. That's going to impact a lot of teams if you've got African players. So if Mohamed Salah is still a Liverpool player, we're going to feel that impact. So
Yeah.
let's hope Chiesa is fully fit around that time. Let's see how that goes. Richard says Darwin Núñez needs to improve his positioning, football IQ, needs to be in the right area at the right time, game management, improving the finishing and mental strength. You to have these attributes. He does have elements of all of these attributes. It's just about finding that consistency and at the same time managing his nerves because he's playing at a very big club. So playing for Liverpool and you're playing at the highest level, it's not easy to kind of manage all of those in one. The positioning definitely, I feel like he gets offside far too many times for
Yeah,
my liking.
that's true.
That's something he definitely needs to work on. And in terms of his finishing, he just needs a bit more composure. But whether that improvement happens remains to be seen because it's been 3 years now and I haven't really seen much improvement when it comes to having that composure in front of goal. So we'll see. At the minute, I think the role he plays for the team it suits his skill set and it helps the team as well going forward. So
Yeah.
yeah, for now we've got Darwin Núñez. Whether you love him or hate him, he's a Liverpool player, so we have to support him until the end of the season at least. So he's ours for now. Richard says Liverpool needs to rotate players in league and cup competitions. Cup game is an important factor, and luck, less injuries need in winning trophies and leagues. That's definitely a valid point there, Richard. I think Arsenal is doing that a little bit more now, especially with the Champions League starting now. He's rotated a lot of his team. He's not going to do a Jurgen Klopp, in my opinion, where he makes like 7, 8 changes in the Champions League fixture, for example. It will be a few players here and there, which for me makes sense. And a lot of players like Trent Alexander-Arnold and Mohamed Salah, they hate being substituted, but it's for their own good. They need to come off and just manage their minutes more wisely. We mentioned Robertson earlier on. His minutes needs to be managed because he's been
Definitely.
hot and cold so far this season. So I
Salah's
think
minutes are going to need it as well. He's at the
Salah
age.
as well because Salah's never had a backup. We've always heavily relied on him, and thankfully for us, he's always been injury free. So you can't really expect him to be injury free forever. There will be a time where he might pick up little niggles here and there. So 100%, we have to make sure we manage all of their minutes and need to do it very wisely as well. Richard said Liverpool needs to stop making mistakes, keep the ball, make sub at right time, tactics, teamwork, hard work, no errors, and get goals in different areas of the pitch. 100% agreed there. But it's very difficult when you're playing every 2-3 days to try and get that perfect game. Sometimes you just have to play to the opposition. So the Red Bull Leipzig game, I don't think it was our best performance by a country mile, and we were sloppy at times as well. But it was the game where you needed to be professional and just get through the line, and that's exactly what happened. So as long as you understand the situation, there will be games where we go all guns blazing, but there'll be games where we don't need to go past 1 or 2 gears. We can do it within keeping the ball and making sure we don't give the ball away to opposition. So it just depends on the opposition and who you're facing at the time. Richard has also asked, when is Diaz, Salah, Trent, and Van Dijk signing the contract? Well, ask Richard, who's that big question? I have no idea, Richard. Who knows? Who knows? Hopefully, the latest news that we're getting is that there has been discussions with Van Dijk in terms of his contract talks. Nothing about Trent, from what I know. Well, it's funny. There was, I think, during the international break, one day we were told that he's having talks with Madrid. The next day, we heard that he's making progressive talks with Liverpool. So, at this stage, no one knows. If I'm being brutally honest, so just have to play the waiting game on that one. And Richard has asked, question, are Arsenal pressure to win a trophy with high wages, spend a lot in a couple of years, and Arteta pressure? What do you think of that?
Absolutely, definitely pressure to win trophies. Because the level we're at as well, not even just the high wages and the money spent, the level that this team is at, and the level of players that we've got. Again, the rumours we spoke about in terms of Trent, Arsenal have the same thing with Saliba at the moment. Well, it's got about
Yeah.
two years left in after this year, so he's got 3 years left at the moment. Same with Saka. Again, if we're going to keep these players of this quality, we're going to have something to show for it. Otherwise, that they're going to seek new pastures and go to clubs where they know that their ambitions will be met. So we definitely need to this year for sure.
Are you concerned about the long-term future of Saliba?
Do you know, only if we don't win the league this season, us that I think he will stay if we win. If we're proven to be competitive for the Champions League and we win a Premier League, or vice versa, of course, it's harder to believe because of Arsenal's history
Yeah.
in the competition. But yeah, if we won a Champions League and became second in the Prem, then I think Saliba would be willing to stay because I do think he has that sort of affinity with Arsenal. I do, but this is again, you don't know this, but you're having to go off of feelings, aren't you?
Yeah.
And just in terms of how he's been in and around the club. Same with Saka as well. I think I think Arsenal fans kind of take for granted that if Arsenal don't win, Saka's going to stay. We might lose Saliba, we might lose your Gabriels, the likes of, but Saka will stay. No, I think he's very ambitious. Have a look at how he signs his contracts. We've given the likes of Rice, Martinelli 5-year deals, and we gave Rice 6. Saka said, "No, I want 4. I only want 4 because I need you to keep proving to me that you're serious." And I like that from Saka. I rate it. And I like that players are doing that. I know a lot of fans have a problem with that, but I don't know, because do you know what it does? It keeps you as the club on your toes, so you don't get settled. So it's good for the players because they have control and they're urging you to show ambition. But it's happy for the fans because they've got to make sure that the players are showing that the club showing ambition. Otherwise, they're going to lose these players. If they lose these players, they'll lose the fans in terms of even coming in, gate receipts, and then the belief from the fans. So yeah,
no, it's spot on. I think that Saka stance is very similar to Trent, where they're both very ambitious players and they're very young in their careers right now as well. So if the club aren't matching their ambition, they will have a lot of suitors to take them on board going forward. So that's the thing. In the summer, a lot of Liverpool fans just assumed that, oh, Trent's definitely going to sign a contract. He scouts. He said he wants to be the future Liverpool captain. He's definitely going to sign. But you can never go off that confidence just because someone loves the club. When you're a fan, you always feel like, yeah, there's no better team but your team, right? But when you're a player, it's your career, it's your job. So you have to think of it from a different point of view. Am I going to be successful where I am? Am I going to be motivated in the years to come? That's what you need to really consider. So it's not just about playing for your favorite team. You know, there's been players that used to play for their favorite team, but they had to leave because they wanted to win trophies and do other things. Look at Harry Kane. He had to move Tottenham because he wanted to get trophy. He hasn't got it yet, but you know, you hope for his sake he does get something over there in Germany. So, you know, you can't just think because they're from the area that they're going to sign a contract. It's not how it works, unfortunately. And we've got one more comment here from Richard. Says, question: has the Liverpool players taken on board Arne Slot way of football tactics and win a trophy this season? So I answered that earlier in terms of the trophy. I think we'll be competing for the Champions League and the league. Whether we win either, it is millimeters when it comes to deciding those kind of small details there. I hope we do win one of the domestic trophies. I think that'd be a good start to Arne Slot's career at the club. In terms of tactics, I think the team have definitely taken on board. It's not too dissimilar to Klopp's way of playing, where it's very aggressive in terms of pressing and making sure you're doing quick passing, but it's more possession focused. And that's probably the difference between Arne Slot and Jurgen Klopp. And defensively as well, I think we're a bit more compact. We're not as high up as we used to be. So that's played a huge part in terms of our way of playing. We haven't conceded that many goals, only 3 so far in the Premier League, which is an amazing stat so far. You know, that's probably what would give away in our opening week under Jurgen Klopp at times. So it's a big improvement. It's a vast improvement from the previous years. And that's not me being disingenuous to Jurgen Klopp. What he gave us over the last 9 years, best football I've seen as a Liverpool fan. and I'm sure neutral fans will say the same as well in terms of the level of football we saw. But it's a new time, it's a new era, and it's a new way of playing football, and that's how the game evolves sometimes as well. So
yeah.
people have to get on board with it, whether you do or not. It's your choice. But so far, I've been very impressed with Arne Slot. So what we'll do now, we'll move on and we will do a combined 11. We'll try and do this quick and easy because we've been doing the show for nearly an hour, 40 minutes. So I want to respect Tariq's time.
I appreciate you, man.
So let's do the combined 11. And we can take it from there. So we'll start with the goalkeeper. I'll let you.
Should we do players that are fit, right? Or
Yeah,
available, form and that?
fit and inform. So current
Yeah.
situation, I would say. So I'd probably give this to Raya, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, and big shout out to Kelleher though, man
Yeah.
of the match yesterday, arguably for you against
Yeah.
Leipzig, and probably the best backup in the league. Him and Ortega are probably there as the best backups. And massive shout out to Kelleher. I think he's top. And to lose a player of Allison, most teams would, you're going to feel the effects, but only slightly. And that's a big praise to Kelleher. But yeah, Raya this season, man, brilliant.
I agree. I think Raya's been one of the best keepers in the league by a mile. I think he's been so consistent. He's looked more confident. Obviously, last year, I think we were speaking about earlier on, when you join a big club, it's a different magnitude for these players. Now I feel like he's actually settled in. He feels like he's part of the team. Maybe because he was on a loan move and now it's permanent. So there's a bit more stability in terms of, oh, I'm here to stay for a long time now. And he's looks really, really good. So yeah, no arguments there. Right back.
It's going to have to be Trent. Has to be for me. Outstanding again. And I like how he's a bit more mixed like, in terms of his role. It's not as last year was definitely the inverted thing. And the only time I saw you play without the inverted thing was against us. He was a bit more wide, and then it was Gomez he was inverting. But Trent, phenomenal man, and creative. You know my thoughts on him already. I think he's the best in the world in what he does. And England are a disgrace for how we don't build the team around him, but we want to build around Foden. Again, if he continue to do that, I hope we get Thomas Tuchel really understands what Trent is, whether he plays him at wing back or in a right back position. Yeah, Trent all day, not even close. And the only thing I'd say about with Arsenal is we haven't had a consistency in that right back due to injuries. But Yuri and Timber, really good player.
He's a good player. I do like it, and he can play in different roles. He can play across the back line, isn't it? So he's a very, very good player as well. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more with you there. I think Trent has been very good. I think, he still gets that disrespect about his defensive duties, but I actually feel like he's improved so much this season. And I think that's come down from Arne Slot, where, he's spoken about in interviews saying that, he's making me into a better defender. He wants to be a fullback where attackers don't want to play against in the future. So he's definitely taken that trade more seriously, being a more of an all-rounder. And the last couple of games, I think he's been very defensively sound. So, but generally all season, I think he's been fantastic. So yeah, no qualms with that choice there at all. Left back. That's an interesting one because you've had a few injuries there. We've rotated it quite a bit. So it's been Robertson on most of the occasions, but we've had Simicast play as well. So no one's really stamped a position in the team. What have we made of Calafioro's start so far this season for Arsenal?
I really like him. There are areas of his game that he needs to improve. Like, I think he's a bit too enthusiastic in terms of how he plays.
Yeah.
But I think he's had a real impact on the left-hand side. I talked about Martinelli and his improvement. I think Calafiori's been a big part of that. He's picked up a few knocks again. Yeah, as you said, there's been rotation. Timber started there because Calafiori didn't have a pre-season and he had a few injuries as well. But he's been very good. If it was me, I would go Calafiori. But I think Simicast has played well whenever I've watched him.
Yeah, I'm actually swaying towards Calafiori. I've been impressed with when he's played so far. I find it really surprising that he learned English listening to UK Drill, which was quite.
I know.
So random.
You wouldn't look at him and think drill music.
No, not at all.
It's his genre.
Not in the slightest, but I think he'll get the edge only because Robertson, for me, hasn't played to his level, in my opinion. He had a couple of games he has, but not on a consistent basis. Simic has done a decent job when he's come on, like you said, but he hasn't played enough games for me to warrant to say, he's there. So I'm going to give it to Calafiori on that left side. Just a shame that he's picked up an injury. He kind of jarred his knee against Shakhtar Donetsk, didn't he? So
yeah,
hopefully it's not a long-term injury.
Rumors are it's not as bad as it seems. It's an MCL injury, which is, and it's only a minor one, so 1 to 2 weeks. But he's definitely going to be missing from the Liverpool game.
Okay, so that's not too bad in terms of his long-term future at the club. That's good to hear.
Yeah,
centre-back pairing. So is that an easy one for us to decide?
I think it is easy. Yeah, and go with it, Ozzy. I'll give it.
So Van Dijk. Who do you think is the better defender, Saliba or Gabriel? Because this is a debate I see online quite a lot.
You know what? It's a very good. Right now, I'm saying Gabriel.
Okay.
But I think out of our defense, I think Ibu Konate needs to be in there.
Yeah,
I'll be real. Yeah, because with Saliba, I think in Arsenal so far this season, Gabriel's been our best defender. I think Saliba played well against Spurs. He played well against Villa, but he's had shaky moments as well. Wolves, he got a bit fortunate with that there. There was a chance that they had and he was falling asleep. Brighton, him and Gabriel were at fault for that goal. Again, I think he could have done better for the goal against Man City when Haaland scored. And again, he had the sending off, didn't he, against Bournemouth. But he's looked... I don't like Saliba when he comes back from international duty. That France, I don't know what, because he plays left centre back for France, and it seems to throw him off and his angles and everything all wrong. Because where is that Arsenal?
Who does he play alongside with for France normally? Who does he play?
He's played Ibu the last 2 times, but before in the Euros, it was Upamecano, and Upamecano's up.
That's strange because I think because Ibu normally plays on the right, but I don't know. That's a bit of a strange one because I think Ibu can play left, and I've seen him play left-sided for France in the past as well. So that's probably just a personal choice from the coach there, which is interesting. Okay,
but Konate, mate, he's been ever since he came in. He had one shaky moment against Wolves, that, and he still went and scored. So he's been very phenomenal this year. What do you make of him? Because I thought last year was disappointing.
Yeah, so towards the latter stage of the season, I think he picked up a couple of injuries and he just couldn't find his rhythm. Yeah. So there was a lot of times where he looked a bit shaky on the ball, not confident as well. Because normally in terms of one of his plus points is that he drives with the ball really well, takes it from the back line, and he tries to create space in the middle of the park. He wasn't doing that with a lot of confidence. Yeah. And I also feel like with Trent doing the whole inverted role thing, he had to do a 2-man job pretty much every game where he had to be a centre back but cover that right back position as well on a numerous.
Very true.
I feel like that had a huge impact in his overall team, but maybe because he's got accustomed to that role now, I feel like this season he's gone really strong and hand in hand in terms of how he's playing. He probably felt a bit deflated knowing that he didn't start in the opening game of the season, but I think he realized as soon as he got his opportunity, he's going to take it with both hands. And look, he's been one of our best defenders so far. I feel like if he wasn't around, we would definitely miss his physical presence because he's so aggressive on the ball with the aerial challenges. But on the ball, he's improved as well, in my opinion. His passing has been very good. And defensively, he's just so aware of his surrounding. And he still covers Trent when required, when he goes forward. So I've been very impressed with Konate. And for Konate, it's not really a quality issue. It's, again, injuries. Injuries has really hampered his development over the years. That's probably why he didn't start for France in the Euros, because beforehand he would be a mainstay in that team. But maybe Upamecano had more games for Bayern, so it was just more fresh for Deschamps to select him in that team. But yeah, very, very shame that he didn't play for them. But in terms of his Liverpool career, I've been very pleased with how he's performed. Some fans still not overly convinced by him. They feel like he has rash moments where, he clears the ball, he makes errors, but he's still young. We have to remember he's like mid-20s, I think. So he's still a young defender. So no one can play the perfect game every game. We have to remember that as well.
Again, to be honest, I think fans also you get a little bit. You're looking at Virgil next to him. That's why, and Virgil
Yeah,
doesn't do it.
exactly. You're comparing him to Best right now, and Virgil's a completely different type of defender where he's not aggressive. He's just very calm, composed. Doesn't need to run. If he does, he'll do it. But his reading of the game is just unbelievable. So that's what separates him from all the defenders in world football. So, but yeah, I couldn't agree with you in terms of Konate. I think he's been fantastic this season. Just got a few comments from Daz. Daz has agreed with us in terms of Raya. He's also said Trent, VVD, and the Arsenal one. I think probably referring to Calafiori there. And he said, "Did you hear West Ham have appealed their red card? I did not know that."
Wow.
Okay, that's interesting.
The Kudus one. That you're not getting a rescinded one for that.
I'll be honest with you, that's not happening. He had about 2-3 fights in that match, so I'm not sure what's getting rescinded for that. That's wild for them to appeal because we all saw it. He pushed the guy first, and then he went for the other guy afterwards. So it's just like, come on,
Yeah, it's a joke.
Yeah, that's poor decision there from West Ham. But we'll move on to the midfield. So we've got a selection of Declan Rice, Gravenberch, McAllister. I guess we can throw Jones in there as well. Would you say Mourinho's in that mix, or is it a bit more advanced? You would say.
I think he could play there, but again, I'm mainly looking at this off form.
Yeah,
I definitely wouldn't put Rice in there. I don't think he's been bad, but I don't think he's been as good as he was at the beginning of last season either. When he came in, I thought he was very good, and he came into an unsettled midfield as well because we had Havertz playing there, and Odegaard was changing his role a little bit, but. I don't think he's been as good. I think he's looked a bit leggy in the first 3-4 games. And then because of the injuries that have happened, we've not had a good settled midfield. So I wouldn't put Rice. Our best midfielder has been Partey. I will be honest. And again, if you go online, you wouldn't think that because people just have agendas and things on there. So, but Partey's been our best performing midfielder this season. But I can't look bit. Okay, Gravenberch has to go in there.
Yeah,
certainly does. It's not even close.
No.
And then I want to ask you because I put Partey there, but I don't. Again, he's still not been prime Partey to what we saw 22-23, but he's definitely been our best. What about you, McAllister? Man,
McAllister has had a good season, but I it's kind of the same notion as what you've described. Declan Rice. I don't think he's been as great as he did when he started last season. I thought last season he was very impactful. Like you could see his level of play was just like better than what we probably expected. And that's no disrespect to Brighton. When you watch Brighton, he played great football there, but doing it in the Liverpool show, we're like, wow, we've signed a quality player, and then we signed him for like 35 million as well. So you can see that there's a very good player there. I think he's been consistent this year, but not. I think maybe Gravenberch's just taking the shine off him a bit more because he's been phenomenal this year. So maybe he's getting more light than anything else. I'm happy to put Partey in there, to be honest with you. I don't think McAllister has been a standout performer. Some Liverpool fans may disagree with me on that one, but I'm happy to put Partey in there.
Yeah, Partey was very good against Man City as well. Like my ad, very good against Man City. He's going to be key for Sunday. We did barely play Partey last season. We didn't play with him against you, did we? Because he was injured for the majority of it. So he's starting to return back to his best. I don't think he'll ever get quite there because of just injuries have taken his toll on him. But he's been very good, and we miss him when he's. And again, Arsenal have lost one game since Partey's returned.
Well, there you go. That shows the impact that he's had so far this season. Let's start with the left wing. So a player that you've been vouching for a lot this year is Martinelli. And this is a funny conversation because last year we had this conversation about this combined 11. And I was like, yeah, Martinelli. If I could choose, I'd prefer Martinelli over Luis Diaz. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to have to flip the script now. For me, I'm on board with Luis Diaz. I feel like he's been phenomenal so far this season. And there was so much uncertainty with his future as well in the summer where some fans, and everyone's entitled to their opinion, wanted Anthony Gordon instead of Luis Diaz, which for me is just outrageous. The comparison I gave to Liverpool fans was all those years back when Benitez wanted to sign Gareth Barry, in
Yes.
place of Xabi Alonso. That is the level of difference between the two players, in my opinion. So for me, that was a no-go. But Diaz has probably been our best attacker, if I'm being brutally honest. He's been
And, yeah.
really, really good in terms of getting goals, which was missing in his armor last year, where he didn't really get a lot of goals and assists, but he's added that this year. He's been more impactful, and I feel like he's really flourished playing in his Arsenal team because he's been asked to be more of an inside forward rather than just attacking the byline all the time. So I've been very impressed with Luis Diaz so far this season.
100%. Me too. I'll echo everything that you've just said there about his game and what he's done this season. Even for Colombia, he's been brilliant as well.
Yes.
I mean, he's always been brilliant for Colombia. Even
Yeah,
last year when he didn't have his best of seasons, he was
yeah,
brilliant for them. But now, yeah, he's taking that Colombia form and goals. What, 2 against Man United?
yes.
So was it 2 against Bournemouth or 1 or 2?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, he's been phenomenal. Luis Diaz for me.
Definitely. Number 10. Oh, I think Odegaard had a great start, but he's been injured for quite a while, isn't it? So
Yeah.
I'll probably still go for Odegaard, if I'm being honest with you. I know he hasn't played for the last few weeks, but and I'm a big Szoboszlai fan, so it's not even me hating on Szoboszlai. I have no agenda. But I feel like Odegaard, from the start of the season, I feel like he was very impactful. Szoboszlai still hasn't found his rhythm, and he hasn't got that end product so far. We're in match week 9. So far, I don't think he's got that end product yet. Obviously, in due course, we can have the discussion later in the season, but I might just edge it for Odegaard.
You know what you can do? Because this has actually happened since Odegaard's injury. Havertz has played in the sort of 10 role, but him and Trossard, it's weird because they're both players like 2 false nines together.
Yeah.
So you could put Havertz in there.
Would you say he's been one of your star players so far this season?
Yeah. He's been. Do you know what's mad as well, Ozzy? He's probably been our most important player. Again, Havertz, you got Saka and Odegaard, yeah. But for us this season, he's our identity up top. Like when he's not playing up top, we struggled. We played up top for 60 minutes against Southampton, 1-0 down. As soon as Arteta changed him and put him up top, he scored straight away.
Yeah.
He's been brilliant. Top goal scorer, 6 goals or so, something like that. Scored in the Champions League against PSG too. Yeah, he's been brilliant, Havertz, this season. So yeah, Kai Havertz. I'd say put him in the 10 because
that's fair.
Because we've our 10 again, Szoboszlai, again, he doesn't have the output, although he's been a very good job for the team, and Odegaard's not been fit or available.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair assessment. Right wing, Salah versus Saka.
It's got to be against. I think Saka's been amazing. Do you know what's crazy, Ozzy? I look at Saka and I'm like, you're brilliant. You're one of the best wingers in the world. I want to put you at number 1, but then Salah will play about half an hour later or a day later and show us why he's still the king. Yeah. It's a joke. I love Saka to bits, and I really want him to be there one day. And I think he will get there once Salah decides to call it a day to the number 1. But then he's got Lamine Yamal to compete with, who's looking ridiculous as well. So, but yeah, it's got to be Salah, man. What he's done this season. And that Chelsea game, his creativity took another level last year.
Yeah, I was about to say, the outside of the boot passing range that he's got, it's different levels. And he's always had that in his locker, but I feel like we're noticing a bit more because he's had to adapt his game a little bit. He's not just a goal scorer now, he's more of a creative playmaker now in our team. So you notice it more. Whereas, when we had Mane and Firmino, he was doing those passes, but it's just that because he had the goals to represent his sort of output, we kind of didn't see it to that sort of light. But yeah, his passing range has been outrageous this year. So yeah, that's a fair one. Up top, I guess it's Jota versus Trossard or Jesus. I think that's probably one.
It's got to be Jota. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't think it's a debate here. And even if it was Havertz versus Jota, I know Havertz has got more goals, but I do really like Jota.
Yeah,
what he brings to the team, and I think him and Havertz are actually quite similar in terms of what their roles in the team now. It's not just about scoring goals; it's more the other things, all-round game, holding up the play, running the channels well, connecting with your midfield, bringing others into it, and yeah, I think that's what Havertz and Jota do extremely well. And he's a better finisher than Havertz because he can score with his left, he can score with his right, and he can score with his head, and he's very clinical. So yeah, Jota think he's been very good this season, and it'll be a massive loss for you if you don't have him on the weekend. And I'm hoping you don't have him on the weekend for that reason.
No, I agree. I think this season, the thing that I've noticed the most about Jota, he's really improved his link play. In terms of dropping deep and trying to get other people involved, I feel like he's definitely improved that in the last 12 to 18 months. Because that was one area I feel like he really needs to improve on, because he's always been a gunman, but he's not really gasped that sort of like all-round ability. But I feel like he's definitely done that over the last year or so. So yeah, I'm very pleased with his form so far. Fingers crossed that he is fit. Zach is a perfect segue to our next segment, which is predicting the lineups for this fixture. So what I'll do now, I'll present the team news. I'll present the Arsenal news. Tariq, if there's anything that you feel like is incorrect, because it might have been more latest updates today, do let me know.
Yeah,
so from what I know, Arsenal have a very long list of casualties. Calafiori, as I mentioned earlier on, jarred his knee in the fixture against Shakhtar Donetsk. Looked like a very painful one. But we also alluded earlier on that it doesn't look like it's a big injury. He'll be maybe out for a couple of weeks. So that means he's still a major doubt for this fixture. You've got Timber. He's closing to full fitness. Whether he gets selected in the squad, there's still a bit of uncertainty. This game might be a bit too soon for his return. Odegaard is on track for return after picking up an injury on international duty for Norway. But I think he's earmarked to return against Newcastle, which is the 5th of November. Rather than this, I think this fixture is a bit too soon. Tomiyasu, as you mentioned earlier on, Tariq, is out alongside Tierney, so they're major doubts for this fixture. Saka, from what I've heard, is having a late fitness test.
Correct.
So it's 50-50. It might be mind games from Arteta where, he's saying, oh, he's not available, then boom, he's in the starting lineup. So you never quite know. So we'll decide until if we play him put him in our predicted lineup or not. And as we all know, Saliba is suspended after picking up a red card against Bournemouth last weekend. So that's the Arsenal team news. In terms of Liverpool, as we all know, Alisson is out for, I would say, another month. So he will be out for quite a long time. Harvey Elliott is back in training. He's doing a bit of light training now, but not quite ready for this fixture. So he'll probably be returning to the squad in about a week or two. Jota suffered some bruising on his upper body. That's what we've been told by Arne Slot against Chelsea. He didn't play, wasn't even in the squad against Red Bull Leipzig. So it seems that he will unlikely be selected for this fixture. So what we can do now, we can go on and predict the Arsenal 11. So I'll give you this segment to give me your views in terms of who do you think will start in this one, and good luck, because there's a lot of injuries, so not a lot of players to choose from. Obviously Raya in goal, so there's no huge debates there.
Yeah, exactly. You got that one. No, there's no. Hopefully he's there for the weekend and no late twist. But yeah, Raya in goal. I think, okay, this is where it gets interesting. All right, let's go with the left centre back first, Gabriel, because he's fit and available and not suspended. Key, massive for us. Goals and set pieces. And he's going to have a big job with Salah as well. At right back, okay, I would go Ben White, because Ben White is fit as well, thankfully. He came off at half time, and people were worried.
Not Ben White. Who was that?
I know. Yes, put White, you should find him.
Hey, is he not in the game?
Yeah, because he might have Benjamin White.
There you go.
Yeah. Because that's how he likes to be called Benjamin, not Ben. And okay, if he's fit, I would actually put Yuri and Timber at centre back next to Gabriel. I like what he played there in pre-season, Timber, and I liked it. And I think especially because of his managing his injuries, because he's come off for that big ACL, he's picking up little knocks and things, which is very normal. I mean, you saw it with Van Dijk as well. You know that. And you've seen it with other players. You're more prone to picking up muscular injuries after being out for so long.
Yeah,
I think that's better for him physically as well, less running up and down in terms of the fullback positions. So Timber to come in and give us that sort of, he's got that last man like gene. that was Saliba has, and because of the aggressive nature of Gabriel, he can be the sweeper in that sense. He's very good at reading it, and of course, he's a previous and playing at centre back. That's he played for Ajax.
Yes.
Left back. Now, this is where it gets interesting. I'm going to be stupid, and I'd take a risk, and I'd start Lewis Skelly, and I'll tell you why, Ozzy.
Okay.
With what he has and his game, hopefully he's even on this.
Yeah, I'm gonna check now. Maybe he's got a dash.
Yes, there he is. Perfect. So the 18-year-old who's never made a Premier League start, he came on ahead of Kivior and Zinchenko, and there's no injury with Kivior, and Zinchenko's only just come back. So the reason I'd go with him ahead of Zinchenko, because I've seen what Zinchenko can do. I don't like it against Salah, and he's not going to learn. Whereas with Lewis Skelly, he will learn and how he will grow from this experience. And I expect him to have problems. Even if we had our fittest players, I'd expect Salah to cause problems. So I think he'll have a lot of support from Gabriel. And when we talk into the midfield, I think it's going to line up exactly like this. And he'll also get support with Declan Rice. So Declan Rice in that left centre mid spot, who's going to give him that defensive protection. When we played you in February, we went with a double pivot, and that was something that we didn't do up until that point. We went with Jorginho and Rice, because Rice has been tending to play. We've been playing more like a 4-3-3 with him as an 8, was a bot like more as a an advanced 8. Whereas now, I think for this game, you'll see him be a double pivot 6, support Lewis Skelly, give him that defensive help against Salah, and then to the right of him, Thomas Partey, of course, he's got to start. Yeah, that's what I'll go for anyway. I think he's been our best midfielder, and I really rate him. Again, not everyone agrees with me in the fan base, and it seems like I'm in a minority, just because of how loud they are in terms of that we need Thomas Partey out, I need to see Rice in the 6 and Mourinho in the centre mid. That will come, and that will come eventually, because Thomas Partey is at a point in his career where he can't play every week anymore. So yeah, I will go for Thomas Partey. On the right, if he's fit, this is what I would say. This is a positive one, because if Timber's not fit, it's going to have to be Kivior, and if Saka isn't fit, it'll have to be Jesus. But I'm going with Saka being fit, because you said it about the mind games. I think that's all he's doing. I think he knows Saka's has a good chance of being fit and available for this one, and I think that maybe he didn't want to take a risk. It's the hamstring injury, so we know with hamstrings, it's. Yeah, he might be fit, but it's about the risk that's involved. And I don't think he's wanting to take that risk at the problem of it re-aggravating, especially with the upcoming games. You mentioned it, Liverpool, Newcastle, Chelsea in our next 3. Sorry, I don't want to watch this Arsenal team without Saka again, because I watched it for half an hour against Bournemouth. We were poor, even before down to 10 men. And against Shakhtar Donetsk, as soon as that first 30 minutes was done, we felt we had no more ideas. And we really miss Saka, especially without Ødegaard. So, yeah, I don't want to watch Arsenal without Saka or Ødegaard ever again, to be honest with you. So, yeah, Saka out on the right. Out on the left, I think that's easier as well. I'm going to go with Martinelli, who's been our best attacker. I'd say since Ødegaard, well, not since Saka got injured in the last 2 games. He had a big chance against Bournemouth, and he got a lot of criticism for not scoring. But for me, it's just, you so heard what I said about Nunes. As long as you're getting them opportunities, I'm happy, because you will put them in. We got United in December. So yeah, not for now. Midweek game, but in the up front, it'll be Kai Havertz for me up front. Oh, you put him in the 10.
But sorry.
I know.
Going back to our combined 11 there.
I know, yeah. I'd put Kai Havertz up top, get him returning up there, and then in behind. This is what I've been thinking of. Do I go with the creativity of Leandro Trossard, or do I really shore up that midfield, go with the Mourinho? I think Arteta will go with Mourinho. Shall I tell you why as well? Because I think he's going to want to have something off of the bench where he can bring on in Trossard. And with what Trossard's done in the last couple of games, I don't think he's been great. And Mourinho did not start against Shakhtar Donetsk in midweek. And I think that's in mind of, because again, he's not had a pre-season because he was injured, and the signing came late and whatnot, and his endeavours with Spain. But now these are the type of games we brought him into. And what I'm looking at with that midfield, Yes, it lacks creativity. A lot of Arsenal fans criticised Arteta for playing that midfield against Bournemouth, but against Liverpool, they're going to. I think you're going to have a key points in the game. To be honest, I think you're going to probably end up with 60% possession, even if things go our way. Or I think you'll still end up with 60% possession. You'll be the dominant team on that, and then we will set up with a physical midfield that will look to try and overpower you in there. Even though you've got legs and you've got the power, but you don't have that, that destroyer in there. So when it is for the duels, Marino, there's no better in Europe than him. He wins the most duels. Only second, I think Bruno Guimaraes is second to him, and there's quite a big gap. And now he's building up those minutes. He's going to be key for that, and especially without Odegaard. So we don't have much creativity in the centre, but our creativity and threats are out wide, and it's going to be trying to get them crossed into the box. Late run from Marino into Havertz being a focal point, and we'll be direct as well. Again, your centre backs are quite good direct in terms of eating the balls in the first balls, but more about winning the second balls. And if you have Marino close to a Havertz, you've got someone that's very good at collecting those second balls. As I said, dual monster, and it'll be difficult for Liverpool to get in around them. But we do have the Trossard alternative if you need that, someone who's a bit more diminutive, who's a bit more tricky in those tight areas, and has a goal and has a goal threat, whether it's left foot or a right foot shot. So yeah, that's the team I would start. And I think you kind of need Marino in there to kind of balance out with Lewis Skelly in terms of set pieces too, because Liverpool are strong on set pieces, and you're not just strong at scoring them, you're at defending them. When you how many times have I seen you break away and score a goal off of opposition set piece? I mean, you did it to us last season in the FA Cup. So yeah, that's the team I'd go for.
So Lewis Skelly, is he normally a midfielder, or can he play fullback as well?
He's a midfielder in through the academy, but every minute he's played in the first team has been at left back. So Arteta's been trying to invert him
as well.
Yeah, left-footed. Very good at carrying the ball, strong physically, not strong enough to. I don't think anyone's stronger than Salah, because that's one of Salah's like main points of how strong he is. But yeah, I think he has personality for me. That's what I like. That's why he's playing for Arsenal, because again, like to be an academy product, I think you have to have personality to a level of extent and to get trust from the manager. And I think he kind of gets that from the group. So yeah, I'll put Lewis Skelly at left back, and then if you need to take him off after 50-60 minutes, then you can put on a Kivior or Zinchenko, depending on what the game state is.
Yeah, I think this is probably the strongest team that Arteta can possibly put out, considering the number of injuries that you guys have.
Yeah,
there still has a good foundation. So even with the backline, even with Lewis Skelly, who's probably an inexperienced player, but his energy will get him through this game. And obviously, you mentioned Declan Rice. He'll definitely cover the ground if required. If he goes on a sort of marauding run, because he's more of a attack-minded player, you've got Declan Rice to cover his run there. Thomas Partey, Declan Rice, despite what fans say, that is probably the best pairing at the club, in my opinion, as well. Marino, interesting profile of a player where he can play 6, 8, or a 10. So he can play in all these different roles. And I feel like with no Odegaard, you do need a different type of player in that number 10 role. Trossard, on paper, you think, attack-minded, he might suit him to play that role. But I feel like with number 10, you do need to have a different skill set to play that role as well. I feel like he's probably better as a striker up top or on the left wing rather than number 10. I feel like number 10, you have to be a bit more of an all-rounder. You need to be ready on that half turn when you get the ball. You're not always facing the goal, or you're facing the opponent. So I feel like Marino will probably be a bit more better equipped because he's played that role quite a bit. And for Spain as well, when he came off the bench, that was the position they played him a bit more further up to get the goal as well. So, from a starting position, I'm sure he can do damage. Martinelli has had a good start. Saka as well. So this is a very strong lineup, stronger than I was expecting. Considering the number of injuries you guys have, and I feel like this is probably the best team available. So it'll be interesting to see how Arteta fills the team.
You see how you said that, Ozzy, and I'm really glad you said that, because I'm going to mention this to Arsenal fans when I'm speaking to them. Our squad isn't as bad as people are making out. Like, yes, we have deficiencies. Losing Saliba's massive. I think our weakest area in this is our defense. And yeah, again, like that's something that we've platformed and build off of from.
Yeah,
But no, considering, as you said, no Odegaard, no Calafiori, no Tomiyasu, and the likes of there. Like, come on, like this team's still very good. Yes, we're touch and go with it. If Timber's not available, that's another downgrade because we're going to
yeah.
Kivior. But yeah, man, we've got a good team, and that's why it's a must not lose for me in terms of the season, rather than a must win.
So I think playing Trossard number 10, that's a bit too much of an adventurous tactic to have from the beginning. Maybe later in the game, if you need a goal, that would work. But I think in terms of the team, it has a good balance. And with our midfield, you'll require to have players that are going to run around in that middle of the park. So Ryan, Thomas, and Marina will provide that balance. Whether they compete is a different question. We'll see on the day. But on paper, you expect there to be competition between two midfielders. So I think this is a strong lineup. I think with the whole left back position, obviously Lewis Kelly's a makeshift left back in this formation. But because you've got players like Zinchenko, who I'm sure the fan base do not have a lot of trust in, and Kiwior is just not really fancied with the fan base, where he's very defensive minded, so he's not a very attack minded fullback. He's naturally a centre back, isn't he? That can play left back. So I don't feel like Arsenal fan would want him there unless you need him in the second half, where you need to kind of be a bit more defense minded and have him to close up that's our right side. If Trent is bombing down that flank, then you might need a bit more of a defensive cover there. And that could be someone that could be probably brought on in the last half an hour. So, no, interesting lineup there for sure. I'm going to bring up the Liverpool lineup and let's see what I do. So, Kelleher, obviously, no arguments there. He will go in goal. Trent will remain at right back. No surprise there as well.
Yeah.
Konate and Konate and Van Dijk will be a centre-back pairing, formidable pairing right now. Probably one of the best centre-back pairing alongside Gabriel and Saliba, I'd probably say, in the Premier League.
Yeah, it's a good debate, like which one's the best, because I think Virgil especially, because he's the outlier in terms of how good he is. Like he's the best, he's the best out of them, and in the best in the world. Yeah, Konate has been brilliant as well this season.
Yeah, I think over the years it's probably been where Konate, if he hasn't delivered or he hasn't been on top of his game, then I feel like the argument becomes a bit more fairer. But if he's on top of his game, I just feel like as a partnership, they combine so well. We've got a leader in Virgil van Dijk who's calm, composed, Rolls Royce of a defender. Konate all action. Like it's very hard to get past him. So I'm very pleased with this centre back pairing. I know a lot of us fans wanted a left-sided centre back. I've actually kind of gone away from that notion now. I do want a centre back, but it doesn't necessarily need to be a left-footed centre back. I feel like it needs to be someone that is a traditional centre back, and then we just sign another left back rather than having a hybrid. Because I do expect Tsimikas to leave in the future, so you're better off signing an upgrade for Robertson rather than finding a makeshift player, if that makes sense. So that's just a bit of my forward thinking there in terms of the summer strategy for Liverpool. In terms of left back, I'm going to go for Robertson. He was rested. He played about 20 minutes against Red Bull Leipzig, but he should be fit and ready to start this fixture. Gravenberch, for me, obviously,
I'm not
in that midfield.
Now, who do you start next to Gravenberch?
That is the big debate. That is the big debate. I've been flip-flopping this decision all day today. Because
man of the match against Chelsea.
Oh, he was phenomenal. That's definitely by far his best game in Liverpool shirt. He was sensational in that game.
And he always plays well against us.
He does, yeah. I don't think fans are going to be happy with my decision. I'm actually going with Jones.
I like it. I mean, I like it as in, like, I think that's the best decision. I would rather you go McAllister, like, if I were a rival. But I think he's so Jones.
Because I think a lot of fans would go for McAllister. But I feel like because McAllister played midweek, I feel like the coach probably had Jones starting this fixture in mind. So that's why, because
Mhm.
he was fantastic against Chelsea. The way he wasn't even just a goal, it was his all-round play. Defensively, he was so good, so energetic. And I feel like even when he came on for 10 minutes against Leipzig, you could see he was still that confident player on the pitch. So I feel like if he's in form, you've got to utilize him more. And
Mhm.
McAllister will have a place in the team. He'll definitely come on, whether it's in the number 6 or in the number 10. He'll definitely play. But at this stage, I'd rather play the informed player, especially against Arsenal. So I'm going for Jones. So I'm not sure how Liverpool fans will take that, but that's my opinion on the lineup.
Good
And
ball carrier as well, which is probably needed for
very
this.
good, yeah, very good ball carrier. His issue has just been injuries as well. He does find in the past he's found a few games where he's made a good claim for himself, and then he'll just pick up a small injury and then
Yeah.
back to square one again. So as long as he stays fit, he'll definitely have an important role within this team. I'm sticking to Szoboszlai. Some fans, I think, would probably even want to see Jones or McAllister in that number 10 role. I'm sticking to Szoboszlai, thinking he's still going to play a good part. And I feel like his pressing will be vital in this
Mm,
fixture. With your midfield right now, I feel like if we have someone that runs around, cause a bit of chaos in that middle of the park, it just breeds a bit of uncertainty in terms of how we play. And then it gives us the platform to play to our tempo rather than to your way of playing. So
yeah.
having an energetic player around the front, and he normally is the first player pressing on the defense. So it'll be whoever the striker is, he'll drop deep and it'll be supposed like leading from the attack. So I feel like he has a big role to play in his team. Obviously, people look at goals and assists, but for me, as long as he's helping the team win games, for me, he stays in the team. And Diaz
Absolutely.
will start in this fixture. I know Gakpo started the last 2 games. The first game was against Chelsea after the international break. Was probably down to Luis Diaz traveling all over the world, coming from South America. So that was the reason why he didn't play there. And I think with this game in mind, I think he probably just thought, you know what, let him have another breather and then just have a bit more of a 4 or 5 day break, and then he'll be raring to go in this fixture. So I will start with Diaz in this one. And Jota, I don't think is available. So I think I'm going to go with Darwin Nunes up top to
It's a
call.
very good team, man. A
So
very good team.
that is my predicted lineup. I can see Daz has also presented his lineup. So let's see what he's gone for. He's gone for Kelleher, Trent, Virgil, Ibu, Robbo, Orion, Dom. So he's gone for McAllister instead of Jones,
Mm,
and he's gone for Mo, Nunes, and Diaz. So that's the only change. So that is probably the talking point amongst Liverpool fans: is Diaz? Is it Jones or is it McAllister? Who do we go for? I'm going to go for Jones. I feel like he's probably a bit more fresher because he didn't play that many minutes in midweek, and he's just come off a man of the match performance last week against Chelsea. So that's the guy that I'd bring on into this team. I think it's going to be a very interesting battle between the two teams with these two lineups. Now the big question is, what is the score prediction? So Tariq, let me know what you're thinking.
okay. My heart, I'm sure we'll do a go on my head or my heart because my head says a draw.
Yeah,
And I think that'll be a good result for Arsenal given the circumstances. But my heart says, Arteta, you said you have a lot of belief in this team. You said we will be flying on Sunday. Believe me. Am I believing you? My heart is, of course. If we win this game, I think it will be massive in terms of belief, not in terms of like the title or nothing like that. Not at
yeah,
this stage of the season, but it's just in terms of guys, we can win we can win against the best teams in Europe because I do think Liverpool are performing at that level right now
mm,
without our key players, and that's the stuff of what I mean. You guys have done it. You played well against Man City last year with all your injuries, for goodness
yeah,
sakes. You drew against them and you should have won,
yeah.
and you had no
Had
likes
a
of no
lot of
Trent,
chances. Yeah, you're right. I
and
remember
Salah was
that.
on the bench to begin with, so
Mm.
100%, man. So yeah, I think it's important that I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna go for my heart. Even though my head says 2-2, my heart says 2-1. 2-1.
2-1. I'm going for the same scoreline, but I'm going for a Liverpool win. I think we'll just about edge it, despite you not having the strongest team. The home
Yeah.
advantage still plays a part, in my opinion, and I feel like it's not going to be an easy encounter. I think it's going to be quite physical, especially in the middle of the park. And I think that will be the key. Who
Yeah,
wins that midfield battle? Who's more? Who keeps the ball in terms of possession? So if the team's more wasteful, then I feel like that will have an impact in terms of the overall game. So I
you're
feel
a
like
bigger threat on transitions than we are.
yes, that's another key thing as well. And I think counter attack, because we do counter press quite a bit. So that would be a thing where I feel like you guys might have more of the possession in the first half, and
Mhm.
we'll allow that to happen. And then probably after that 20-minute mark, that's when we start finding our rhythm. That's how we normally play on a slot. We're very slow starters. We don't really go all guns blazing in the opening 10 minutes. That's probably why we've conceded our goals around that time period as well. So we did it against AC Milan. I think we did it against one of the teams in the Premier League as well. So that's something we need to really look into going forward. But I'm going to edge it. I'm going to say it's a 2-1 victory. For in terms of goal scorers, I think for Arsenal, it'll be Martinelli who gets to go.
Yeah.
And I think for Liverpool, I'm going to go for Mohamed Salah and I'm going to go for Darwin Núñez.
I'm so worried about that side, man. Like whoever we play, whether it's Skelly, Kivi, or Zinchenko,
Yeah,
they've all got their
yeah,
flaws. And against Salah, oh man, yeah, I can see that. Again, if I was a Liverpool fan, I'd say 2-1, 3-1, like because it's a big opportunity. You're in great form. Arsenal don't have the best of teams, but it's still going to be a difficult game. And I think this game is going to be a little bit more similar to the Arteta Pep ones,
yes,
where it's a bit more of a tactical chess piece,
yeah,
things changing left, right all the time, where you'll see Jones be a bit more advanced and then he'll drop deep and then Szoboszlai goes wide and Salah inverts or drops wide. All of them little tactical tweaks
yeah,
that people go, oh, boring for the neutrals. But for the managers, it's like their
yeah.
wet dream.
It is. It really is. And I think we will see a tactical battle in this fixture. I feel like before it might be just a game for the occasion where you just try and field your best team and see what happens. But I feel like these two coaches, they want to outsmart each other. And Arne Slot will
Yeah.
definitely want to make a big impression in his first campaign as Liverpool coach. So for me, it's a very, very exciting game. You've got a lot of injuries, but I still feel like you have enough quality to definitely cause Liverpool havoc there. Yeah, it should be very, very exciting. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And big up to everyone for the comments. Big up to Enz, big up to Daz, big up to Fozzie, big up to Anfield Uncle Rods, big up to Eddie's Football Waffle, and big up to Richard, and big up to Mark as well. Appreciate your comments and appreciate your engagement, guys.
Is this going out on the podcast platform so they're listening, like Spotify and that?
Yeah, it could be actually. So we might even do that. So I'm on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I think I randomly found myself on Amazon Music as well. So I'm there. I'm everywhere apparently. So so
Good
that's
man.
where we are.
Giving you 2.5 hours of content, whether you're watching or listening. Guys,
Yes,
you gotta just hit a like and subscribe for Ozzy for me, please. Like that's all I ask for. As we've given you free content, guys. Come on.
exactly. And firstly, thank you to Tariq for coming on the show. As you mentioned, 2.5 hours, but it's not just been biased opinions here. We've had proper discussions, proper debates, and it's been done in a good manner. It's no trolling, no crazy talk going on here. We've had it in a very civil way, and the community has reflected that in the chat as well. So Tariq, thank you as always for coming on the channel.
Appreciate it, guys.
Please let the people know where to follow you on social. Please plug your channel and just let everyone know what's going on for you guys for you in the future.
Thank you again, Oz. Really do appreciate it. I love our convos, absolutely do. And I can't wait for more of them when we will be reconvening again, maybe in the FA Cup, maybe in the Champions League, but definitely before the season ends. But yeah, you can find me at Tariq Talks, guys. My channel's been a little bit dormant for the past few weeks. I'm hoping to get content flowing thick and fast post the next international break. So you can still go over there and subscribe and be ready for that. But yeah, once again, but if you don't want to do that, that's fine. Just make sure you subscribe to Ozzy. Okay, that's the main thing. And yeah, you'll be seeing me on here as well. And I'm sure if you want to see more of Ozzy, because we'll have to get him on to my channel as well at some point. Even if Arsenal aren't playing Liverpool, it's just great to chat with Ozzy, man, because he's a very like-minded football man. like myself, and a proper, unbiased fan. So I appreciate yours.
Appreciate that, Tariq. Yeah, no, likewise. For me, I know we always try and do content between Liverpool and Arsenal, but I do want to get you on when we're doing like neutral shows, or even if it's just like random teams and we do like match previews, try and definitely get you on the show a bit more. So yeah, no, appreciate your time for coming on. And please, guys, please make sure you subscribe to Tariq Talks football channel as well. Yes, he's an Arsenal fan, but that doesn't mean you can't support him. He's a friend of the channel, so please show your support. He does a Premier League show as well, so it's not just always Arsenal content. He does a variation of different types of content as well. So yes, please make sure you show him the support. In terms of upcoming content from this channel, I'll be doing a live watch along of this game. So yeah, if Liverpool are doing a bit of a madness, or
I have to tune in at halftime.
Yeah, you might have to tune in. So I'll be going through a roller coaster of emotion. I was getting very irritated in that Chelsea game last week just because the referee was really doing my head in.
I saw with Slot and Nunes.
Yeah, you know what? I was on the verge of doing the same sort of stance there as well. So absolutely mental game. But so I'll be doing a live watch along this Sunday. I'll be live at 4:20 p.m. It's a 4:30 kickoff UK time. I'll also be doing a match reaction later in the evening at 11 p.m. And it's an open platform for everyone to come onto the show. So if you want to come on and have your say, there will be a link pinned in the chat. So whether you're Arsenal, Liverpool fan, or even if you're a City fan, whoever you are, if you want to come on and have your say.
Where are they? I'm joking. I'm sorry.
There aren't many. There's about 8 of them. But yeah, if you guys want to come on, then feel free to do so. And that is it for tonight, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care. Stay safe. And I hope to speak to you all very, very soon. Goodbye.